fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence. Spend our life searching for the sense of belonging. Some people die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence.
Anxious earth is rising. Anxious earth is rising. I'm so happy.
We spend our life searching for this sense of belonging. Some people die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence.
Hey, Double Triple Channel here. Welcome to the Double Triple Channel. My name is Ron. I'm in rural New Hampshire. And sometimes I stream about that stuff here in rural New Hampshire, about the animals and the forests and all the things. I like science. I stream about science. I stream about movies, science fiction. I'm vegan. Sometimes talk about that. I do IRL, which I'm going to do. I'm going to show a bunch of IRL videos today. So if you like my IRL stuff, stick around. This is a live stream. It's August 26th, 2026 at I've got 8:27, 8:26, 8:27. This one says 23, so yeah, that's about right. Yeah, 8:23 p.m. on the East Coast. And it's actually the 25th here. It's 26th in UTC, 25th here in New Hampshire. So it's August 25th, 2026 at 8:24, 8:23 p.m. And I got on the screen there, it has the UTC time. Anyway, this is kind of scuff, right? It's a recording of a live thing. It's not like if you're watching this on a VOD somewhere, on a video on YouTube or something like that. This isn't like an edited down video. It's a live thing on Twitch. It's just a recording of it. So it's going to look a little scuffed compared to other videos. But so if you see something in the title and you clicked on this because it said whatever in the title, and I'm not talking about that at the moment, then just feel free to fast forward to the point where I'm talking about that. Or stick around, watch the whole thing, whatever you want to do. I think I'm gonna check my sync. I do this sometimes at the beginning of the video, at the beginning of the stream. I'm gonna clap and check the sync to make sure that the audio is with the video. So this will just take a second. All right, that looked pretty good. I think it's in sync. I know it's kind of irritating when if you're watching a stream and the person's mouth is moving just a little bit different than what the sound is, and it bugs me anyway. I don't know, a lot of things bug me that don't bug other people. Yeah, I'm Neuro D, so that's another thing. I'm Neuro D. Got social dyslexia, so I don't know. I'm kind of halfway on the spectrum, maybe. So weird things bug me. So yeah, I got incredible IRLs that I've done. I did some time-lapse videos. I got a picture of a redtail hawk, which is as close as I've ever gotten to a redtail hawk. There's a couple hundred yards, or a couple, like 10 or 20 yards away from it. So that was very cool. A lot of stuff I'm going to talk about, and my browser history. I've got a whole bunch of stuff that's stacked up here that I want to talk about, just random stuff. So if I'm talking about something and it's not what you're not into it, it's going to change pretty quick. I'm going to go through a lot of stuff today. So I'm talking about something and you're not interested in it, just hang around for 3 minutes and I'll be talking about something else. All right, so let's set up my. Let me do a few more setup things here. I want to pull my chat out here. No, that's not what I want to do here. Pop out chat. There we go. Yeah, I want to get things set up here so if somebody pops into chat here, I'll be able to see it. If I don't set this up right. All right, there we go. All right, so let me. I'm gonna pull up. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna pull this window over here so I can see it. Make it big. Okay. All right, so somebody's. Hang on just a second here. Okay, sorry about that. All right. So what else did I got to say at the beginning here? Yeah, this is Twitch. This is Twitch. People swear on Twitch. So I normally don't swear in front of people, very rarely. But on Twitch, I do. I try to cuss a couple times at least during the stream because I'm on Twitch, and if people like to hear that on Twitch sometimes. So if you don't like that, don't watch Twitch. What can I say? That's what this platform is. That's what Twitch is. Let's see here. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring up my browser window, because what we'll do first is we're gonna show my browser history. that was the promise, right? We'll do my browser history. So let me bring that up here. Browser window. Let me click on that. Connect my browser. Let's see here. There we go. All right. There we go. You see that? Let's see what that looks like here. I think you can see that, right? That's pretty good, I guess. Yeah, you can see pretty much the whole thing there, I think. Let me shut my camera off, and there we go. All right. Let's see. I had stellar time, which is, I don't know why. This was a search I did. What did I do? Stellar time. I don't know why I searched for this. What I wanted was sidereal time. Maybe I couldn't remember the name. But this was something that had come up a couple times. What was it? I think it was a quiz. We were doing quizzes, and the quiz said how many times does the Earth rotate or something each year or something like that, or how many days is it or whatever. And everybody thinks, well, okay, they think, well, 365 and a quarter days per year, right? So you say, how many times does the Earth rotate per year? And that's not it. It's not 300. It's 366 and a quarter. Because when the Earth goes around the Earth, it's turning the same way that it's going around the Earth, and because it goes around the Earth, it's got to turn an extra turn. I don't know if I can show that here. I got a globe here. I don't have anything that's round here. But when something is going around the Earth, let me show my thing here. Maybe they have. Oh, here they do. They've got a little video here on YouTube, right here on Wikipedia. It'll probably show it here. Yeah, you see. Okay, there you go. You see it? So that's one rotation. The Earth rotated once there. But because it's going around the Earth a little bit, it moved a little bit in orbit. It's got to go a little bit more each time, each day. See? That's a sidereal day. That's how many. That's just a regular rotation with regard to the stars. That's called a sidereal day. But if you're doing a solar day, like we normally count as a day from the sun, it's a little bit longer because it's got to turn a little bit more here, see, to get to a solar day. See that? It's about another degree or so. Right, 360 degrees in a circle, and 365 days in a year, so it's almost 1 degree, right? It's almost 1 degree extra that it has to turn. And if it keeps going like that, let me see what the rest of this video looks like here. There it is. See, Earth rotates 366 times per normal 365 day year relative to the stars. And they bring up leap years. Leap years has nothing to do with it. It's not leap years. It has nothing to do with it. All right. So there's another way to look at this, and that's with quarters. If you've ever done quarters. That quarter trick, you've seen that, right? Hang on a second, I'm trying to learn how to do this here. My thing won't switch over here. Alright, there we go. Have you ever seen that thing with that little trick with quarters, right? You put one quarter and another quarter, and then you rotate the quarter so it goes around the other quarter, and you say how, because they're the same circumference, right? So you say, how many times does the quarter turn around to go around the other quarter? Well, there's the same circumference, so you think it's going to be one turn, right? But when you watch it from your perspective, from the perspective of the quarter, it goes around one time. But from your perspective looking at it, it goes around 2 times. And that's another manifestation of that same effect, that sidereal thing. So somebody asked you how many times the Earth rotates per year. It's 366 and a quarter times. 366 times. So that's because of that effect. All right, so that's that one. Let's bring up another one here. I wish I could figure out. I'm gonna try something here. I might lose the stream here. I don't think I will, but I'm gonna try something here. I gotta look something up. My hotkeys aren't working, and I want to see if I can fix that. Let's see here. Transition. Pause. 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 Okay. Alright, I guess I was pushing the wrong key. I'm going to bring up my browser window again. There we go. Alright, so that's sidereal time. Get rid of that. What else we got here? Artificial Intelligence Act. Well, I'll get into that a little bit later. That's a little bit more involved. Mission Impossible. Remember Mission Impossible? That a lot of you probably remember. The movies, right? Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise and all that, and you don't even remember what it was actually based off of. It's actually based off of a thing that was a long time ago. Let me sort of move my camera a little bit closer here. There we go. Is that better? Just a little bit better. Long time ago, 60s, 1966, there was a program called Mission Impossible. It was the first one, Mission Impossible. And it was this show that I don't know if the movies are even following the same premise. I guess they are kind of. But the idea, you got a group of people who are some secret group, working for the U.S. government, and they get assigned a task to do something, go steal something, or whatever. I don't think they ever assassinate anybody. But they just do some task that does something, and it's like the CIA doing something. And a lot of the shows in Mission Impossible were kind of set in settings that seemed like they were in South America somewhere or something, or South or Central America. And CIA during the time was doing a lot of, interfering with a lot of stuff that was going on in government and stuff. So, and they made a movie about it. Now we look at it and we say, well, that's bad. It's bad that CIA is doing that. Back then it was like, okay, that's normal or whatever. I don't know. People didn't think that was a big deal. So let me see. Okay, that's working really good. All right. So anyway, I came up with that, and I just thought that was kind of cool. I liked this series at the time when it came out. It was pretty popular. And something I didn't realize is the whole first season they had a different guy there. Let's see here. Overview, Mission Impossible cast, characters. Let's see. Peter Graves, yeah, Jim Phelps, right? Peter Graves. It was a different guy for the first season. Now they have him on here the first season, but he wasn't. It was a different guy. Why did they have that in there? For the first season, it was somebody completely different. Let's see here. Oh, maybe this is just the whole franchise. Okay, this is the whole franchise. Okay, let's see if I can find a link to the actual the early one here. Final Reckoning. Let's see. Here it is. Franchise. Why don't they have a frickin' link here? What are you doing, guys? They don't have a link to the original series. Here it is. Okay, click on it. There we go. TV series, 1966. And there was a different guy. I always thought it was just Peter Phelps was the, or Peter Graves was the guy who played Jim Phelps all the time, but it wasn't. They had this other guy, Steve Hill, this guy, who played it for the first season. He played Jim Phelps, the main protagonist of the whole thing. And I didn't even remember that. It may have been that I was just, maybe I didn't watch the first season or whatever. I don't know what it was. But I always remember this guy, Peter Graves, the guy who did the movie Airplane. People probably remember him from Airplane. Remember that? Remember the movie Airplane? The pilot. He was a real goofball. That's how a lot of people may remember him. A lot of people on Twitch here probably don't remember him at all, right? Peter Graves. But anyway, he was the main guy for most of it here, for seasons 2 through 7, I guess. So he was the guy. Peter Landau, he was kind of a famous guy, or a character actor, and maybe even a lead actor in some stuff. And Leonard Nimoy was on there a little bit. Maybe you heard of him. Sure, you've heard of him. That's the guy who played Spock. Before he played Spock, or during while he was playing Spock, he also played this character in Mission Impossible. At least for one season, he did. So there's a lot of stuff. And there's a woman here. Barbara Anderson. Oh, she came. No, it was one of the main ones here. Barbara Bain. There it is. Barbara Bain. Yeah, come on, you gotta have it. You gotta have a picture of Barbara Bain. Okay, that's what she looks like now, or close to it. 2006, and that's what she looked like for Mission Impossible. And people may, if you're not familiar with the Mission Impossible, you might recognize her from this thing called 1999 that she did on TV. She did this thing called 1999. It was a science fiction film. Space 1999. There it is. Space 1999. That was kind of another cool TV series. 75. So if you're too young to remember Mission Impossible, you might remember Space 1999, and she did that. But when I look at some of the I looked at a couple of this episodes of this thing, and they don't treat women very nice at all. They don't treat her very nice. They treat her like a sex object or whatever in the thing. So it's quite a different attitude when you look at those old things. I'm sure you're familiar with that, right? If you ever looked at old TV, 50s and 60s and 70s and stuff like that. It was quite different mindset about what stuff and things. So it's kind of, if you haven't watched them in a while, and then you're just watching contemporary stuff, and you go back and look at those, it's like, wow, how did they think that way, or whatever, So, all right, so that's that. So, Mission Impossible. If you haven't watched it in a while, you can go back and look at that. This is something that I found. What the hell was this from? Okay, I know why I got to this. This is this thing called 21 Beacon Street. This is really old. This is back in the 50s, late 50s. Is when it started. So it's almost a decade before Mission Impossible. But apparently Mission Impossible was kind of based on this a little bit. Forerunner to Mission Impossible. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that this was kind of... And they were actually sued. The producers of Mission Impossible were sued by these guys, the guys who did 21 Beacon Street, saying that it was too close of a thing. I don't know how it came out, how the lawsuit came out. They probably couldn't. You can't, you don't copyright ideas. You can copyright actual stuff, but not just an idea, unless it's like a, exact, rip off, with just a different name or something. But even that's really hard to get. There's a whole company. There's a whole film production company, the Asylum. You've heard of the Asylum? It's a film production company. They do B movies, really cheap movies, and they do mockumentaries. They take some movie that's where they're spending millions and millions of dollars to promote it, and they make a movie that's very similar to it with a slightly different name or whatever, and they try to get people to watch their movie by mistake or because it's the other film is getting people excited about a certain concept or whatever, and they call it drafting, where they have so you have a huge movie that's doing a bunch of publicity about their release of their movie, and these guys spend $100,000 to make a film that's very similar, and it kind of just from the stuff going on, the publicity going on with a big movie, they get a little bit of boost in their viewership or whatever, their numbers. So, all right, so that's 21 Beacon Street. I haven't watched that. I was going to watch a couple episodes. I don't know if it's even anywhere that you can watch it anywhere. It's on a DVD, so maybe, I don't know. So that's something. I'm gonna. All right, I gotta fix my camera. Sorry, just a second here. This is gonna happen because I got old stuff. I got old equipment, things like that. So it's kind of hard to keep everything going. All right. So that's that one. God damn, my neighbor is playing. I got a neighbor down here who's a racist, and he's just a total. Anyway, he's playing his music loud enough that I'm inside here. That's almost I'm a long ways away from him, and his music is loud enough that I can hear it. But it's the very low frequency, boom, 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 and I can hear it. And it's barely perceptible, but it's enough that it's interfering with my concentration. So if I seem a little bit more spacey right now, it's because that asshole is playing his music too loud. All right, let's see. All right, that was Barbara Bain, and let's see what else we got here. Oh, here's another guy that I don't know how I came across this, but Dick Van Dyke is still alive. Can you believe that? Oh, by the way, Dolly Parton died. I mean, we don't need to talk about her. You're probably hearing about her already, so we don't need to talk about that. But she died today or yesterday or something like that. But this guy here, he's over 100 years old. He was born in 25. December 13th, 1925. So in a couple months here, he's going to be 101 years old. This is Dick Van Dyke. And he looks like he looks pretty old there. He's got it. That's pretty old looking, but hey, 100 years, and so that's what he looked like, right, when he was out there. That's a very old picture. He's very young there. From the Dick Van Dyke Show, he looked more like that. You probably remember him looking like that on the Dick Van Dyke. If you remember Dick Van Dyke, that's 1964. Yeah, he did Mary Poppins. You probably might remember that. Or maybe you've seen that movie. I got a low res image there of him. So I thought that was kind of amazing that he was still alive at 100 years old. There are a few of them out there. A couple of them. Who's the other one? Mel Brooks is another one who's over 100 years old and he's still alive. So it's kind of amazing that they can still live that long. It's amazing, and more people are living longer now. But the average age still hasn't gone up that much. In fact, it ticked down a little bit because of COVID. So it's kind of weird. We get this we come up with all these advances and medical advances and stuff like that help people, but then you also have these evil people in the medical, public health and other places, drug companies and everything else that want to sell their product and sell their services and stuff, and so they do things to make people sicker, and food companies, same thing, right? So it's kind of weird. So we have this weird dynamic where they're continually making things, technology and stuff that can help people live longer, and at the same time they're marketing shit that make people sicker all the time. So the average age of people is not changing, but they're, the people who are able to avoid the bad stuff that the evil people are putting out there, they can live longer. So we're getting these people who live 100 years or 90 years. There's a couple years ago, I was hitchhiking somewhere, and a guy picked me up and we were talking, and he's driving along, and just all of a sudden he says, "Hey," he says, "I'm 94 years old." I said, "What?" That guy looked like he was maybe my age, He didn't look that old. I'm not 94. I'm younger than 94. And it was just surprised me. He's out there driving around, 94 years old. And so that was. I wish I would have talked to him more, or got his number. He lives around here somewhere. I should have stayed in contact with him and just picked his brain a little bit. Somebody that old, probably has a lot of stories to tell, So it's amazing. Anyway, that we are able to have people live longer and longer. I saw a movie called WALL-E. WALL-E, remember, that movie? WALL-E. It's just Wall-E. It's a movie about a robot, but the kind of one of the backstories, or maybe it's the main story, whatever, is this idea that people were living longer. They were living in this situation where they were living up to 150 years old, 160 years old, or something like that. But in the same society, they were also kept really fat and in wheelchairs and stuff because from the robots. The robots were in control, kind of. Anyway, it is just kind of interesting. It was I imagine that the social commentary of the movie was on what was going on, like what I just talked about, right? About how our society, or the people in charge anyway, or do things to make people fat and unhealthy and stuff like that, but at the same time increase. And they just kind of presented it as an extreme. So. All right, let's see what else I got here. Okay, I don't know what this is about, but it's in my thing. Obviously I'm not showing you everything in my browser history. I'm just showing you stuff that if I showed you everything, half or 80% of what I type in is, how do you spell this? How do you spell that? Because I don't have a spell checker that works very well. So, what is this? It was a list of largest extant lizards. I think this came up on eRoom's quizzes or something. Maybe they ask about a lizard or something like that, and afterwards, sometimes some of those questions he has on a thing will prompt me to do research on whatever it is, And anyway, so it's just, there are a whole bunch of lizards. The largest one was what was it? Komodo dragon is the largest one. That's basically an alligator, right? Alligator isn't a lizard, but this is a lizard, and here's a water monitor, crocodile monitor. What else we got here? Nile monitor. All right, look at that thing. How'd you like to run into one of those as you're out hiking around? And so they have a whole bunch of, a lot of these I never even heard of. Iguanas. Yeah, a lot of iguanas out there. People have pet iguanas. Maybe not these big ones. They got the smaller ones probably, I guess. Here's a marine iguana. I guess that's one of the Darwin things. Wasn't that, didn't Darwin write about that? I think he did. Didn't Darwin write about that? I think Darwin wrote about that, didn't he? I think that was one of his deals. Was he was on the islands. He had these marine iguanas and he had regular iguanas, and I think that was one of the things that gave him his idea about natural selection. I think. I don't know. I'm just making this up. It's coming out of my memory, but I don't know if it's real or not. Anyway, so that was another thing that I did. I don't know. We don't talk about that very much. Monopoly. Oh, this is one. What was it? Oh, Monopoly is not that bad. The game. To live in a society that had Monopoly. I mean, eventually they'd get you. But if you had your choice, if you didn't have to, if you know how Monopoly works, right? You go around the board, and you land on properties as you roll the dice and you go so many spaces, whatever the dice says, and you land on a square, on this whole thing. You land in one of these spaces. And if it's a property, then you can, if nobody owns it, you can buy it, like homesteading, And if somebody owns it, then you got to pay them rent, and they can develop the property. You know how Monopoly works, right? So, but if you just played the game and you didn't have to, if you could just pick one of these and rent from them or whatever. The thing about Monopoly is UBI is built into the Monopoly. People don't just get rent, from their property. They get UBI. Every time they pass go, they get $200, right? That's a UBI. That's UBI. Everybody gets the $200 once or whatever, once each time they go through. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they had, because they kind of built that into the system, that it is UBI. And of course the problem is that, the game is designed so that eventually somebody gets everything, right? And that's the problem. If you had a Monopoly game that was set up, maybe Pass and Go gave you 500 or 1,000 instead, and people could only own so much. You couldn't own more than so many properties, and maybe you couldn't develop them more than a certain amount or whatever. If they put a bear, if there's a maximum amount that people could do, people couldn't have a monopoly on properties, and they couldn't, have, no such thing as trillionaires or even, multi-billionaires or whatever. You know what I'm saying? There was a cap on and somebody couldn't own. You couldn't have more than 25% of a market or 10% of a market or whatever the number is. So you had something, a cap on top, and then on the bottom you had the UBI, so everybody was getting money enough to live on, periodically. That wouldn't be too bad. That would work out much better than what we got, and you could still have capitalism. You could still have free markets and all that kind of stuff. So it'd be interesting to play Monopoly in a situation where, someone could not own more than so many properties, I don't know how many properties are on here, but you could say, okay, no, you can't own more than, 10% of the properties or 20% of the properties on the board. And you couldn't own all the railroads. You could only own one railroad each, or two, or whatever it is. And when you pass go, you get 500 or 1,000. And it would be interesting to play the game with those parameters, and see how it worked out. I mean, the game would never end, right? Which is good, right? You don't want everybody to go bankrupt and have only one person with all the money in real life, right? So anyway, it's kind of, because everybody just kind of think, oh, the monopoly is like, kind of shows how bad capitalism is and all that, but it's not, and people are always dissing capitalism, but it's not it's not just capital, it's the avarice and the monopolistic behavior, right? It's the trusts, the big, they used to be big, they call them trusts, big large conglomerates or groupings, that would corner a market, whatever, what I'm saying. So that's the part that's bad, is when you have people who get too much or have too much control over a particular market or whatever. And then on the other end is you have people who don't have enough to even eat or have a place to live and all that kind of stuff. So if that was taken care of and you still had capitalism, it wouldn't be so bad. And then the other thing, of course, is that you just have evil people who will do anything for money, who don't care, who just will kill people for money, who will do things that they know will kill people just so they can make a little bit more money, People who sell, like the cigarette industry, the oil industry, the healthcare industry, food industry. They do things to kill people, that kill people, just so they can make a little bit more money. So if you get rid of that somehow, I don't know, maybe if we had a way to identify people who had that defect in their that mental defect that would causes them to have so much avarice. If you could identify that, maybe in children or something like that, because I'm sure it's something that's personality type or a mental illness that people have. If you could identify that and correct it, or just identify those people and watch them or whatever, and cultivate a culture where that behavior and that personality is discouraged rather than coveted, or championed, The problem is that when the people who are like that, who are avarice, who are grasping, they go for positions of power. They're the ones who run the media. They're the ones who do all this stuff, and so they want to promote that attitude, that mindset, and so on the media and everything else, you're gonna see movies like Iron Man and movies that just glamorize avarice, glamorize trying to acquire, be acquisitive and get more stuff, so that attitude is in our culture is much. There are many more people who end up with that attitude, even if they're not born with that personality. They kind of follow it just because the culture is like that, and so we end up with so many more people who do that, who have that attitude, who pursue that thing or whatever, than would normally happen, just because of the way it works. Because people who are grasping and are acquisitive end up acquiring, media and influence and all that. So it's kind of interesting. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing that I came across Monopoly, and it just kind of said, hey, that's 200 passing go, that's UBI, So I thought that was kind of interesting. Let's see what else we got here. We got Nero. I of course I had heard of Nero. Didn't know much about him, but I knew that he fiddled while Rome burned. That's all I knew about him. I didn't know. But he was one of the emperors of Rome, of when Rome was an empire. This was in A.D. Let's see, he was Roman emperor from 54 A.D. until 68, so a dozen years maybe. I don't know what that was, 12, 14 years. And he wasn't one of the good ones. He was apparently he was in the beginning. He was okay, but kind of went wacko after a while and did bad stuff. And the whole story of him fiddling while Rome burned, I never understood what that was about. Why, what was going on? I thought maybe that was when Rome was sacked and he didn't care and he fiddled. I didn't know what that story was about, And so I read this article, at least part of it, and what it was is that while he was emperor, he was trying to do stuff. He got to a point where he was, we got a guy who's occupying the Oval Office right now who's kind of like that, where they get to where they want to have everything about them, and they want to build monuments to their ego and all this shit, And so he got to that point where he was kind of like that, and people didn't like him, and he would kill people, have people executed for stupid stuff, and so he became unpopular after a while. And what happened was there was a fire. Do they have that here? Maybe they have a whole section. Here it is, Great Fire of Rome. There was a fire in Rome that happened. Started on July 18th, 64. Okay. And they don't know why it started. They think it was probably just one of the shops there or whatever. They don't know. But the fire started, and it spread, and it was catastrophic. It burned a whole bunch, burned most of that, or at least the merchant area, burned it down pretty good. And after the fire had burned out all these merchants and businesses and stuff like that, very soon after that, this Nero went in and said, "Oh, I'm going to build my new park or my new center or whatever he was going to build." Let's see what it was he was building here. Some monument. Let's see here if it's got it. Let's see if I can find it here for several days. Okay, yes, it was an accident, most likely, but a lot of people thought that maybe Nero was responsible for it, because after the fire, he claimed all that area where all those shops were, where the fire was, and he wanted to rebuild it into this. Okay, yeah, he said this would. Okay, here it is. Here it is, including creation of a real-life backdrop to a theatrical point. Oh wait, that's the wrong thing. Oh, here it is. Okay, Nero started. Okay, people think that he started the fire in order to clear the site for his golden house. That's what it was, a golden house that he had planned. There it is. So he had these plans for the golden house. I don't think he actually built it. I don't remember. I think he died before it got completed or whatever. But it was going to have a Colossus of Nero. It was going to have a big statue of himself and all this stuff, right? All this ego-stoking stuff. This big, area that was not for the people. It was just for him. And it was going to be built where this fire was, So what likely happened was the fire was an accident. But after the fire, he said, "Oh, we got this. Nobody's there anymore. The fire burned everything out. That's a good place for me to build this huge golden thing, this golden palace that I want to build or whatever, And because he did that, because he started planning to do that and acquired that area and started building this you know, luxurious thing that was just for him. People thought that was kind of, wasn't good optics, you know. It wasn't good optics. You know, imagine, right, if their big fire burns out an area and a horrible thing, tragedy, people lose their livelihoods, maybe a lot of people died, you know, and there's a whole burnout area. And instead of helping people rebuild their businesses and everything, the emperor just takes all that land and says, "I'm going to build a big palace and a garden and a statue of myself," and blah blah. You know, bad optics. People didn't like that. You know, and so that's where the whole thing of Nero fiddling while Rome burns comes from. That's, if you ever hear that, that's what that's about. It's about this accident happened, this fire happened, and later on, after the fire, he wanted to build a big luxurious estate, you know, and gardens and statue of himself and all this shit where the fire was, and people didn't like that, and so later on, the story came that he was fiddling while it burned or whatever, and he wasn't, because they didn't have fiddles back then, right? So that's one thing, right? It wasn't that he fiddled, he didn't want anything. It just happened, and but he was just a dick, and people didn't like him, and so that's what happened. That's why that's a deal. So anyway, here's a statue of him that somebody vandalized, obviously. Chopped his nose. So yeah, he wasn't one of the ones that people liked very much. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, you out there, you guy, you know who I'm talking about, who is exactly like that, who's just got the big fragile ego who wants to do everything for himself. This is how you're going to be remembered, motherfucker. That's how you're going to be remembered. You're going to he's that guy, that dictator in the Oval Office right now. This is how he's going to be remembered, as the biggest dick in the world. All right, let's see here. Let's see what else we got. Oh, this is kind of neat. I've got some IRL of this one. This is a little butterfly, and I've seen a couple of these around here, and I got a picture of them, and it's called the wood nymph is the name of the butterfly, and it's not a big butterfly, and it's not like big beautiful colors or anything, but it's just kind of interesting looking butterfly that flies around here. Let me see if I can find a picture of it, because I did take some pictures of it. I didn't mean to get into IRL right away, but I guess I can show you some of these pictures of it. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, I didn't label my pictures too well here. Shit. All right, we might have to wait for this. Yeah, we'll just wait until I get into the IRL, because it's. But anyway, it's kind of just. I saw this guy out there, and AI is so cool. I like AI, because I had this picture of this thing that I found out there fluttering around, and I just took a picture of it and asked AI what it was, and AI said, "It's this wood nymph," you know. I looked it up, and sure enough, that's what it is. I mean, it would have. I don't know how long it would have taken me to try to go through all the different pictures of butterflies to try to figure out what that thing was. But using AI, I could just do it really easy. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, we have a lot of butterflies around here that are pretty good. They. We get the swallowtails and the monarchs and all the different ones, Lots of different butterflies out here. Give me just a second here. I got a cough here. All right, there we go. I don't know if that helped much. Can you hear me now? Still? Hello? Yeah. All right. All right. Next thing on the list. It's the Artificial Intelligence Act. This is in my browser history here. This came up as a thing. I found a YouTube video about this. I didn't even know this was going on. But in the EU, in the EU, the idea with the EU is you're just supposed to have all the countries. You're supposed to have like a free market or whatever, and be able to sell stuff to each other. And instead, they're passing all this bullshit regulations that are just telling people what they can and can't do, and what they can and can't say, and everything else. That's why the UK left. They said, "Fuck this. We're not gonna. We're just supposed to be a trade. Just a free trade organization. This isn't supposed to be some, dictatorship where people, where you get some unelected people in a board somewhere telling everybody who lives in all these different countries what they can and can't do." But this is one of them that does that. It's called the Artificial Intelligence Act, and one of the things that it does is it tells that tells AIs that they have to actually change what the AI says, the words that the AI uses. The speech. Right? Let me see if I can find the provision here. I'm not going to find it in the Wikipedia article, but it changes. It tells the AIs that they have to put something called a watermark in there, a textual watermark, which is the AI. The AI has to, when it makes words in a you say write a short little story, and the AI writes a little story or a poem or whatever. And the AI has to be trained, or whatever. The AI companies have to figure it out so that when it puts those words out, it chooses different words at different times, and using a statistical algorithm or whatever, it can determine that the text is from an AI because it has inserted this watermark in there, and it's really bad. I mean, for one thing, it's stuff that you're creating with AI has a hidden data in it. The words, has hidden data in it. In fact, I did an example of this a while back. I did a prompt to ChatGTP where I told it to write a story and embed a password into the story in a way that people wouldn't be able to see the password in the story. And it did it, though it did it in a real primitive way. It's just one of the sentences in there, just each word in the sentence, the first letter of each word in the sentence was the letter from the password. It was kind of, it wasn't a very good way, but there's a way to do it where you can't see it, where it's done where they just choose one word over another that are very close, and statistically it goes one way or the other, and they can actually put encode information into the text, just ordinary text that you read, And so this law, this Intelligence Act law that the EU passed, is forcing the AI companies to do that, the ones who do business in the EU, to encode this secret information into the text that the AI produces, And it's very, very bad. It's a security risk. It's got all kinds of problems with it. Let me see if I've got I might have some videos here or something here that talks about this a little bit more. I think I did. Yeah, here it is. This guy did a. Let me see if I can find this here.
It's inside of the plow.
All right, let me see if I can set this up here. All right, this will take a second here. I'm going to set up a. Let's just take a second. I got to connect. Every time I do something new here, I got to connect the thing here. Okay, there it is. So this guy here did a video about it. And this is how I found out about it. What's this guy's name? His name is what's his name here? Clyde Balmer. So go give him a follow. He does stuff about AI and different stuff. But yeah, Clyde Balmer. And he did this thing and talking about these watermarks and stuff like that. And he kind of explained it, and then he went back and because it's difficult to understand, and it's unclear exactly what it, the scope and all of the whole thing. But he featured. This is a comment that I made in his. So he did a video before this one he did on the EU Act, and I commented on his video, and then he took my comment, featured my comment in his next video. Verbatim comment says, is that true? I don't know if this is verbatim or not. The effect is worldwide. Oh yeah, I was saying he kept saying that the effect of the EU regulation was worldwide. It's not. It's only for companies that sell in EU, and only for stuff that happens in EU. Right? It doesn't. He kept saying that it's worldwide, but it's not. And anyway, that was my comment that I said about it. I said that you can't even make a law like this in the U.S. because it affects speech. It affects the content of speech. When if you're using an AI to create some stuff, the law is telling you what is going to be in the stuff that the AI makes. So it's not good. Anyway, he did a video about it. He got into all the different hidden characters. Here we go. Yeah, it's not just that's another thing. It's not just these. Jesus. Let's see. There we go. It's not just the. They use these UTC-8 character set that has a whole bunch of different characters, and like a space can be just an ordinary space, or it can be this. They're like several different characters that can be a space in text, and by alternating from one to another, you can make 1 0, right, or whatever. Make a 1 0 1 0 1 0. If you can do that, then you can encode stuff and hide it into a text by changing the type of space that you use each time you have a space. And it could be one can represent a 1, one can represent a 0. You know what I'm saying, right? Right. Anyway, that kind of encoding of information, hiding in text, will follow the text if you cut and paste, as long as the cut and paste supports UTC-8, which they all do just about. And you can't tell by casually looking at it what it is, but if you look at the actual characters, the actual bytes in the text, you can see it. And it's very easy to strip away. You can just tell it to you just save the document as ASCII and then reload it back in or whatever, and it will strip that out. It'll just make it all regular spaces. It'll strip out that hidden information. But this thing that they're doing with with this EU thing, AI Act, is it's the actual words are different. You know, when the AI is choosing different words, it will choose one way or another statistically, and they can hide information in there that way. So it's really bad. I mean, it's not good at all that they're doing that. Let me see if there's anything else that will cue me up here. Retype, yeah. None of this will work. You can even OCR. Yeah, he's saying you can retype it. If you retype it, it's still, the coding is still going to be in there. If you OCR it, the coding will still be in there. The only way to change that, the secret encoding that they put in there, is to change the words. You know. So anyway, let's see what it says. One comment was genuinely clever. Okay, let's see. If so, then this new system wouldn't help with detection, just decrease the quality of the model. Yeah, and it does. It does degrade the model. It degrades the output. If you're Jesus, why is this doing this, man? If you're if it's actually picking different words than it normally would, then it's degrading. It's degrading its output. It's the output, the quality of the output wouldn't be as good, especially with stuff like poems. You know, poems have to be very precise, and you have to pick, you know, certain words that sound certain ways, or rhyme, or have a certain cadence to them, or whatever. You know. And if you're doing this BS where you're trying to encode stuff in there, it's gonna degrade the quality of those poems. Also, code. If you tell it to write a program, if it picks different stuff for a program, that's gonna mess up the program. You know, there's like, you know, one best way to write the program. There's one, you know, if you're writing a loop that is time sensitive, there's one way to write that that's optimized, right? The most efficient, the fastest, or whatever. So if you change and use some other commands to do that, that's degrading your program. So it's a big mess. It's a big mess, and anyway, this guy had video about it, so you can go look at his videos and stuff like that. He's got a commentary on it, and we went back and forth. We disagreed about certain parts of it, but I think we agree that it's a lousy idea what the EU is doing. So that was another thing it was in my browser thing here, was this UI Act, or Artificial Intelligence Act. So that was another one. Data centers, yeah, data centers. I'll have to do a whole stream on data centers. I think I talked about them a little bit on my last stream or stream before, whatever. But yeah, data centers aren't evil. You're using a data center right now, by the way, in case you didn't know that. Right now, you are using a data center. If you're watching this video, you are using a data center to watch this video. All right? If you're watching it live on Twitch, you know, there's several data centers that it's going through for you to get it. If you're watching it on YouTube, there's a data center that's, you know, YouTube has it stored in a data center somewhere. If you're watching it on my website, it's not really a data center. It's not a big data center, okay? But it's a server, you know. Anyway, it's so if you think we should get rid of all data centers, then bye internet. You're not going to do anything on the internet anymore, because that's what the internet runs on, is the data centers. So it's just stupid, you know. And data centers are not, they don't use any more, you know, there are lots and lots of different industrial applications, buildings and things that would use much more energy than a data center. And right before I came on live here, I actually was talking to Mr. AI, and I asked him about it. Did I put that in here? Yeah. Copilot here. I asked Copilot, I wanted to figure out how much energy I was using in all my prompts, you know. I want to say, okay, I've been using AI for a little over a year, or this particular Copilot. All right, I used ChatGPT before that, but mostly now I'm using Copilot, which is a front end for ChatGPT actually. But anyway, I asked it. I said, I want to figure out how many prompts I've submitted to Copilot and all that. Anyway, I had to download my history and massage it with a few bash commands to figure out exactly how many prompts I had. But I figured out I had almost 3,000 prompts, 2,949 prompts during the last 16 months, which is a year and 4 months. 1.33 years approximately, right? And so I had asked it how much each prompt was, and it said between a half a watt hour and 2 watt hours. I think it depends on the prompt, you know. Maybe it's more than that, maybe it's, I don't know. I had another source that had that range all the way up to 4 watt hours per prompt. You know, I think it depends upon what it is. Just text prompts, I don't think it's that much, you know. If you're making videos and stuff, it's going to be a lot more. But this is how much energy the language model uses, the inference part of the language model, to give you your answer. When you type in a prompt, here, let me show you this here. When you type in a prompt, it's going to be between, this is how much it's going to use, watt hours, 0.5 to 2 watt hours per prompt. So you type in a prompt, your prompt goes to a data center somewhere, and an inference engine there that has a language model running on it is going to consume some energy to spit out the answer from the AI. And that's going to take this much energy for that to do that. And so I asked it to do the math for me because I'm lazy, right? I could do this. It's not that hard to do the math on this, but I just asked the AI to do it. And it figured it out, right? How much my prompts use. But then I said, oh, wait a second. What about the training? Because the training takes a lot of energy to train up the models. What if you amortize that energy over, you know, all the prompts that the model gets? And also, what about my computer? My computer's running. My computer, I figured out, is using about 30 watts. If it's, you know, like when I'm streaming, it's a lot more. But if I'm just sitting there typing text in and stuff, it's about 30 watts. And I assume that it's like 5 minutes per prompt that I'm, you know, I type in a prompt, it gives me an answer, and I read it, and that takes 5 minutes. It's probably less than that. Anyway, so I told it to do that. I said, add that in there too. Add all that energy too into the thing, into the calculation. And it did it. It did all the math. And so it came to 7.4 kilowatt hours for the training for my computer, and then 2.5 kilowatt hours for the inference engine, and then the amortization of the training of the model was 0.6, which is interesting because everybody thinks the training is the thing that takes all the energy, but it's because you just do that once when the model is created, and then that's spread out over 100,000 different prompts that people are used in the lifetime of the model. So it's not that much. So the thing that takes the most is the inference engine, or actually your own computer. Right? It depends on the computer you're using, of course. Anyway, so Mr. AI put this all together and came up with 10.5 kilowatt hours of energy. Now I didn't check the math, but it looks good to me. It's pretty simple math. I don't see how I could mess that up. So 16 months of me putting, think about that, 16 months of my use of AI, typing prompts all the time, having conversations with it and all this stuff. 16 months of that used only 10.5 kilowatt hours of energy. And if you're not familiar with what a kilowatt hour is, it's not much. It's I figured it out on I have one of the most efficient cars available, and that's 10 kilowatt hours, 10.5 kilowatt hours is about what I use when I drive to the supermarket and back. I'm in the rural area, so I got to drive a little way, but that's like in a car. If you figured it out on like a car that's just getting 25 or 30 miles per gallon, that's not very far at all. That's a 15-minute drive or something, a half-hour drive or whatever. So that's how much energy that I used, that the data center and AI used for me in 16 months of typing almost 3,000 prompts into the computer. It only used 10 kilowatt hours. So all this, when people are telling you that, the AI is using too much energy and all, it's bullshit, And they say, look at this center here uses 10 megawatts, or all these centers are using megawatts of energy, and then they'll just mess with the numbers, They'll say, all of if we keep going the way we are, that's a projection also. If we keep going where we are, in 10 years, it's going to be, AI is going to use, 3% of all the energy that comes from Houston or whatever. It's like, what the fuck? What are you comparing there? So I did the math. I want to know what the real deal is. I want to know how much it's actually using. I did the math on my own use of the AI, and I use it quite a bit. I use AI a lot, not too much. I try to do things occasionally by hand. Every once in a while, I'll do something by hand, or use a calculator. A lot of times, I don't even use a calculator. I'll just do it on paper. So I do that occasionally just to keep the brain working, But I do use AI a lot. Obviously, almost 3,000 prompts in 16 months. That's a lot. I don't know if that's a lot. But it only used 10 kilowatt hours. So, that's not that much. That's a tiny fraction of, what is that? That's a tiny fraction of 1 month of my electric bill, even, So it's not, people need to, instead of going by vibes and going by all the propaganda that all the data center and anti-AI propaganda that's out there, figure it out on your own, Everybody keeps complaining that AI is going to make people stupid. Well, guess what? They're already stupid. Use the AI to learn something. If you use the AI and learn something about how to calculate energy and water usage and all that, and do the math yourself and figure it out what the real deal is. Don't go by this propaganda and this, people saying that, it's giving people asthma. That was something I heard. I heard somebody out there claim that AI gives teenagers asthma. What the fuck? That's bullshit. Why people believe that, I don't know. Anyway, okay, that's my rant on AI and data centers. So, all All right, let's see what's next on my thing here. All right. Switch. There we go. All right, meteors. We had a meteor shower. I think I mentioned it in my last stream. I don't know. But we had a meteor shower, and I went out there and looked a little bit. But so I was looking at this and how meteors work and all that kind of stuff. And it's just kind of interesting. You don't... yeah, bolides. I think that's how you pronounce it, bolides. I've seen maybe one or two of those in my whole life, where it gets really bright. You get a fireball. Here, I'll do this. This is the one in Russia, I think, was it? Yeah, this is the one that hit Russia. This is bigger than a bolide. This is something else. This is a big deal when this thing hit. Let's see if they have it here. Take your time. There it comes. Look at that thing. Whoa. So that was, I don't know if you guys remember that when that hit, but it like knocked out windows in the whole town. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. Anyway, meteors are interesting, and I came with this idea that I came across something. I came across this thing where they were talking about skyscrapers. You know, the tall buildings. They call them skyscrapers, and I said, well, meteors should be called skyscrapers. Maybe not. I don't know. Because they actually scrape. They actually go through the sky and scrape through the air. You know, some of them scrape it and go and keep going out. Some of them scrape it and disintegrate. And so I think that'd be a good name for meteors. Call those skyscrapers, and the building just call them taller buildings or something. I don't know. All right, so that's meteors. I can't remember. There's something else I wanted to talk about there. Where they happen, 75 to 120 kilometers up. So just the top, pretty high up in the atmosphere, but the atmosphere is not that high, so it's not that far away, really. It's 50 miles away, or whatever, 50 to 75 miles away. That's not that far. And they're really small. Most of them are like the size of a grain of sand, they said. A millimeter or smaller in diameter. That's pretty small. But because they're going so fast and they release so much energy so quickly, they're bright enough that you can see them. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, simulation hypothesis. What was I talking about that? I don't know why I went to this. I don't believe in the simulation hypothesis because there's not a damn thing behind it. There's no evidence at all. Nothing. It's not even I don't even know why they call it a hypothesis. I don't think there's any way to prove it. If it's being simulated by some other entity, by God or whoever, by some ET or whoever, I don't know, then they can simulate everything. They can simulate the results of our experiments. You know what I'm saying? So there's no way to prove this, so it's not even a real thing, I don't think. Testing the hypothesis physically. You can't do that. If it's a simulation, then they could set the simulation up so that your tests give, you know what I'm saying? It's just, so that's stupid. Anyway, that's something I don't believe in at all. And there are some logical reasons for that too. If you have this idea that a simulation of a turtles all the way down type of thing, you say, oh, we're in a simulation, and one day we'll do a simulation we'll create computers or whatever, or our AI ancestors or whatever will create a simulation. Ancestors, no, it's the other way, right? Progeny, our AI descendants will create a simulation, right? And then they will create a simulation. You know what I'm saying? It's you know what I'm saying, right? It's turtles all the way down. Each simulation, in that simulation, those people create another simulation, and those people create another simulation. That's the hypothesis, right? That's what they're saying. And they're saying, well, if that happens, then we must be, chances are we're in a simulation, How could, the odds are that we're not the one on top who started the whole thing, That's the hypothesis. But if you go by that, what you're saying is that we're the one on the bottom right now, right? If there's a whole chain of these simulations, you say we must be in a simulation because the odds of us being on top is small. The odds that we're the first ones who are going to ever do a simulation. But what you're saying is that we're not in the middle of that chain because we haven't created such a simulation yet, right? We haven't created a simulation that is a whole world that is as complex as our universe. So we're not in the middle. We're not one of those in the middle of that chain. We're at the bottom. Somebody has created, all these creatures or whoever has created these simulations, and then they created our universe as a simulation, but we haven't created another one below that. So we're the bottom of this whole chain. So if you're saying, well, odds are we're not at the top of the chain, well, then the odds are we're not at the bottom of the chain either, which means odds are there's no chain, right? It's silly. So I think that whole thing is just ridiculous. Plus, it's not provable. You can't prove it. You can't prove it because any experiment you do, any observation you do, anything could be manipulated by the simulation. So let's see. Oh, this was kind of interesting. Let me see. I'll start with this one here. I came across this movie. I have this account with my library. It lets me watch free movies every once in a while, and they've got a bunch of these esoteric movies on their library, their film library, And I found this one called "The Man Who Haunted Himself," and I thought it was very interesting for a number of different reasons. It's an old 1970s British film, and maybe I'll do a review of this at some point. I don't know. But it's one of these films that if you watch it, it's very much one of these films that is a product of its time. You know what I mean? When you watch it, all the techniques and everything, you can tell it was made in 1970. It's got the zooms and all the camera angles and the whole thing looks very much 1970s. But it stars Rodger Moore, who was the James Bond guy, right? He did James Bond 007 for a while. But this movie was before he was 007, about 2 or 3 years before he was 007. And when you watch the film, his acting is not like 007, but his performance in this thing was just off the charts. He did a really good job of acting in this thing, and I think this was like how he was discovered, or how I think the job that he did in this film very much influenced the decision to make him 007 in the James Bond series, in my opinion, looking at it. But one of the things, without giving the film away, and this isn't a spoiler. At the very, very beginning of the film, he has a sudden personality change as he's driving his car, Yeah, don't read this if you don't want a spoiler. Wikipedia puts spoiler, so don't read that if you don't want a spoiler. But at the very beginning of the thing, he's driving on this road, and he has a sudden personality change, and he turns from this uptight, guy or whatever, corporate guy, into this wacko who just drives really fast and is careless and blah blah blah. So the whole movie then is about like multiple personality disorder, which was they've changed the name of it now. They call it a dissociative identity personality or something like that. And that's what this whole movie was about. And there were several. There was one called Sybil around this time. There were several movies like that were kind of variations on the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But at that point they had the psychological. The psychologist had figured out, or at least come up with an idea, that there's a thing called dissociative identity disorder, which is what they used to call multiple personality disorder. And so that's what that movie was about. It was about a guy who had that. But the way they did the movie, it was kind of like the way they did that movie Bliss, that movie that I reviewed, Bliss, a month ago or so. It's from the perspective of the guy instead of the perspective of the viewer watching it, which makes it that much more of a psychological thriller. It makes it more interesting. But anyway, I looked at this, and it turns out that this dissociative identity disorder is controversial, whether that actually exists, because the only evidence they have for it is self-report, and you kind of think it's kind of true, right? That's how you have to do it, right? If somebody's pretending like they have different personalities, how do you figure out if they are or not? You know what I'm saying? It's very difficult to suss that out. So it's controversial whether that's even a thing or not, or if people just pretend like they have multiple personalities or not. And the incidence of people being diagnosed with this kind of ebbs and flows with how popular or how well known this disorder is in the popular culture, which kind of tells you that, okay, people are seeing that and then acting that way, either consciously or unconsciously, acting like they have multiple personalities, So it's just kind of interesting. It's a whole, just one of those areas of psychology that's very, very interesting. And one of the theories is that the multiple personalities or personality splits happen at when there's a trauma event in the person's life, then it causes them to dissociate and have multiple personalities. That's one of the theories. There's another theory about it too. And this movie, this guy, the man who haunted himself, is uses the trauma part of it as the the impetus for this guy having his multiple personalities. Anyway, it's very interesting. So that's, you want to watch an interesting movie, I might do a review of that sometime, so you might want to look that up. I don't know where you can find it. I found it on this thing that's just through my library, and it's had this in their weird eclectic film library. So I don't know where you can find it, but if you can find it, watch it. It's kind of interesting. And if you like 70s British films or psychological thrillers, it's kind of interesting. It's of course 1970, didn't have very good representation at all. I don't think there were any black people in the film at all, so that's not too good. But it was right around the time of civil rights, right very shortly after the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act and stuff. So it was, and it's British, right? They you know, they're not always in sync with what's going on in civil rights and stuff in the U.S. So anyway, very interesting stuff going on there. So if I remember, I'll do a review of that at some point. I'll probably forget, but if somebody wants to see it, remind me. Let's see what else I got in here. Superman. I don't know why I did this. Superman. Oh, I know why this was. Somebody had. Maybe I shouldn't say this. I saw some content out there. Let me put it that way. I saw some content out there that was about somebody was streaming Superman content and saying that it was in the public domain. So somebody had some old black and white Superman stuff that they were streaming or had content out there available on video, whatever. There was some content out there. Somebody had put out there and said, "Oh, this is public domain Superman now." Okay. And I said, I thought, well, is there any public domain Superman? How can that be public domain? And so I looked it up, and I don't think it is. It was made in 1940. The first Superman here. Where is it? 1940s film. Here it is. No, it's animated. Wait a second. Here it is. Superman serial. This is one of the first film, full real life. It started as a comic book, right, and then cartoons, and then they did a film series back when they were doing film series. This was, where they had short little half-hour whatever films, and they'd say, and they would always end with a cliffhanger and say, "Come back next week, and we'll show you what happens," right? And so they try to get people to come back to the theater every week to watch these film series. That was back in the 40s. They did that. Anyway, this is 1940. 1940s. So unless something happened to make this go into the public domain, I don't think it's in the public domain. So that's what I was trying to check out here. Anyway, there's a lot of little tidbits in this Wikipedia article about Superman and how they got this guy Kirk Allen to be the Superman guy, and it was very hard. The comic strip people who owned the trademark, who owned this character, this Superman character, were very protective of their IP, of their brand here, whatever, for Superman, and they really stuck their nose into everything that the producers were doing with this movie, and to the point where they were trying to tell them who to hire in their casting for the guy and everything else. And there was this little story in there where they talk about this guy coming in to this Kirk Allen guy coming in to interview for Superman. This guy right here. He came in to audition, rather. He came in to do his audition for Superman, and he was doing another film at the time that required him to have a goatee, a mustache and goatee. So when he came in to read for this part, he had that goatee, and the people who did the comics were actually sitting in on all the auditions for all these people, and he almost lost the part just because he had a goatee, and the comic strips were worried about, we don't want Superman to have a goatee. So that's kind of funny. Hi, Goat 2 King. How are you? He said, hi there. Hi, Goat 2 King. How are you? Hi. Welcome to chat. Yeah, I'm just, we haven't even gotten to the IRL yet. We're just talking about my browser history. So if that's why you came here, you didn't miss anything yet. But welcome. All right, so that's Superman. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, here's something. Talking about data centers and stuff like that kind of put me on this thing where I was looking into how the coolers work and how they, if they use water. And yeah, computers don't consume water. Does your computer on your desk consume water? No, it doesn't. Some of the real newer ones, big beefy newer ones, gaming systems and all that, some are water cooled, but it's just circulated, right? It's not, they don't actually use water. And it's the same thing in a data center. Data center is basically a whole bunch of computers in one building. They don't consume water. But what does happen in any big industrial building like that, in a big, like a Walmart, a big shopping center, a big anything, a big factory, any big industrial building, they got to keep the building cool, and they use something called a chiller and a water tower to cool it, to help keep the air conditioning system cool. And so that's what happens in a data center. They and it's changed. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but the first data centers were just basically, they just stuck a bunch of computers on racks. They call them. They're just packed into the building very tight in aisles, and they just organize them so they can flow the air through them and keep them cool, right? So the air inside the building would get warm from the computers, and they don't want the building to get too warm, because computers, when they get too warm, they stop working, right? They overheat and burn out, and so they got to keep it cool in the building, and so they take the air in the building and run that through an air conditioner and blah blah blah. And then on top of the roof, if the building is in an area where it's dry enough that they can use an evaporator and a cooling tower to help cool the system that keeps the air cool, then they'll do that, and that evaporates water. That does use water, but it's not the computers. It's not anything unique to the data center. Any building does that. Your Walmart does that. Your whatever. If they live in an area where evaporative cooling can work, they will do that. They will use that. And if they have water available, they'll do that. So it has nothing to do with data centers that use water. Now some of the newer data centers, just like your newer computers, will use a closed circuit where they have water or some other refrigerant that runs right over the chips, very close to the chips, and takes the energy out that way, because that's a little bit more efficient than using airflow to cool the chips. And they'll do that just so it's more efficient, and they actually save energy by doing that. But that's a recirculative thing. So computers don't consume water. just so you know. Anyway, part of that was this one component of this whole system that they use for keeping buildings cool is called a chiller, which is the air conditioning part of the air conditioning part of it. And then another part is called the water tower. I don't think I have one of those here, but anyway, so that was something. Let's see what else we got here. We got this was some. I didn't know what this was. This came up somewhere. Dual cyclone bagless vacuum. Maybe this is on an e-room quiz or somewhere. I forget where this came up. And so I searched for that, and this is something. It's called cyclonic separation. It's just a way to either take particles out of a fluid. A way to separate particles out of a fluid. I haven't read this article yet, so I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I can imagine how it works. It just works like a centrifugal force, right? To have the heavier stuff go to the outside, and then you can separate it. I'm sure that's how it works. Just like they use for recently. I've talked about uranium enrichment. They use this same process. So it's I'm sure that's what that was. So it's just something that I had never heard of before. Cyclonic separation, but it's just a specific application for this idea of using centrifugal force to separate, in this case, suspended particles in a fluid. All right, so that's that, and then we go to Microsoft Chat, which we just talked about. All right, I see I got a few more here. What time is it? 10 o'clock. Let's see, I do have some more here. So let me put this over here. And that we can put up there. All right. All right, here we go. So I got a few more here. I think I talked about induction. Did I talk about that? I think I talked about that last time, about induction motors. That I think is very cool. And then one of these days I'm going to do. I'll either do a stream about them. I think I talked about them a little bit, but one of these days I'm going to do. I've got a fan that has an induction motor in it that needs to be repaired, and maybe I'll do a stream of that, or me repairing a fan. So that I've done a fan repair stream before, believe it or not. But anyway, that was in my stuff, in my browser history. Influenza vaccine. Yeah, I was looking up vaccines generally. The COVID vaccine. When they did the COVID vaccine, when they released it, they said, "Oh, it's 95% effective or efficient, or whatever." Efficacy. That's what the word. Apparently, the word efficacy and efficiency are two different words in the area of vaccines. But they said it's at 95% efficacy, they said, when they came out with it. And I actually found a video of a guy saying that. Let me see if I've got that here. I don't think I put it over here. I probably don't have it on this machine. Let me see here. Yeah, I don't think I have it here. But I actually found a video of one of the officials, the FDA guy, when the vaccine came out. The guy from the FDA came out and was given a news conference, and he said, "Oh," he says, "yeah, the vaccine is 95%, has an efficacy of 95%. Period. That's it." And he didn't say anything more about what that actually meant. And turns out that it's not 95% effective at preventing symptomatic illness, which is what virtually all the vaccines up until that time. That's how they spec'd them, right? That's how they made that efficacy percent. It was based on, this is how effective this vaccine is at preventing symptomatic illness. But when it came to COVID, when they announced it and said, "Oh, it's 95% efficacy," there was a little footnote down at the bottom that said, "Oh, the efficacy is based on death and hospitalization." So it's not. It turned out the vaccine was only 44% effective at preventing illness, symptomatic illness. But it was 95% effective at keeping people out of the hospital or dying. But they didn't make that clear when it came out. They just said efficacy 95%, and all the news, everybody, news reported, everybody just ran with that. They said, "Oh, it's 95% effective. Take the vaccine. Look how great it is." Blah blah blah. And so that was just flat out deception, And it's not the only thing that they were deceptive about on that whole COVID thing. The way. And by the way, we're still in the pandemic. For those of you who don't know, you got to wear your mask. Let me do it. Let me do a public service announcement here. Public service announcement. I'll do a public service announcement. If we're still in the pandemic, and you need to wear an N95 whenever you're in public. Hundreds of people, at least 100 people, dying every week from COVID still, and virtually all of those illnesses are preventable if you wear an N95 mask. An N95 mask is the most effective method, other than complete isolation, of course. The N95 mask is the most effective way to prevent infection, spread of COVID-19, and many other, flu and lots of other things. When you use a mask, it has to say N95 on it. Has to say NIOSH, NISOH. NIOSH, I'm sorry. NIOSH. I have dyslexia, by the way, if you're not familiar with me as a streamer. I have dyslexia. So it's got to say N95, it has to say NIOSH on it, and it has to have these straps that go all the way behind your head. If you've got a mask that has the little ear loops that go behind your ear, that's not an N95 mask, and it may not protect you as well. So you need to get the N95. It doesn't have to have this little vent on it. Some have the vent, some don't. This kind of keeps it a little bit cooler when you have this vent on it. But when you wear it, you make sure that it makes a complete seal all the way around, so that no air leaks in when you're breathing. And put one strap behind your neck, one strap behind the upper part of your head in the back, and wear it all the time whenever you're around other people outside in public. And if you do that, you won't get COVID, and you won't spread COVID and kill other people. So it's very important. All right, that's my public service announcement. Let's see. Oh, this one's kind of cool. I found a spider wasp outside. I got a picture of him, and when I go to IRL, I'll show you that. This is a spider wasp, and I saw him out there, and he was. I was just kind of sitting out there on the steps, and I saw this wasp come up and go underneath the steps where I was sitting, and I thought, oh no, there must be a wasp nest under the steps there, so I better be careful, But there wasn't a wasp nest under there. And what it was is this wasp was coming and going under the steps, and the thing that was under the steps is a lot of spiders. A lot of spiders like to live under steps and under decks and things like that. And this wasp was going in there and hunting spiders and getting a spider and taking it back to its nest or whatever. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I didn't know at the time that it was a spider wasp. I just saw this black. It looked kind of like this one here. And here's one with it. Got a little video of it here. Let's see. Yeah, there's one with an orb spider, looks like, and he caught him. and they sting them, you know, to immobilize them, and then they grab them and carry them off. Different species do different things. There he goes. He carried him off. So different species do different stuff. Some of them will take them back to their nest. Some of them will bury them in the ground, or do whatever. And the idea is that they lay their eggs in the corpse of the spider, and then when the larvae hatch, they can have food to eat and help them, whatever. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Apparently, some of them will catch tarantulas too, and the venom is pretty bad. And they spend a lot of time just like in the grass, just kind of wandering through the grass looking for spiders and stuff. So I'm not going to go barefoot anymore. I don't want to step on one of these guys and get stung, because apparently their sting is very, very, very painful. So yeah, if you ever see these guys around, you don't want to be walking around barefoot, because they're not very easy to see. They're not, because they can be in, and this one that I was watching actually went into some little shrubbery near there, and I lost him. I couldn't even see where he went. He was just going through there looking for spiders deep in the shrubbery there somewhere. So and as I said, he was walking around on the steps of my deck and everything. So Pro Avery, welcome to chat. Yeah, we're talking about just random stuff right now. I'm going through my browser history. It's not really my browser history, but it's just stuff that I've come across, since my last stream or whatever. And I just left the tabs open so I could talk about it during the stream. And one of those things was this wasp. So I thought that was kind of cool. Maybe I think I can find a picture that I actually have of the one that was around here. Let's see if I can find that. I think it was pretty close around here somewhere. Here, I'll put this. I'll just put my thing up here, and I'll switch over to that. All right, it takes me a second here to get OBS to connect to the doohickey here. All right, so here's some pictures. This has nothing to do with the wasp, but I put mushrooms out in the sun to have the mushrooms make vitamin D. I'm a vegan, so I got to get vitamin D from somewhere, and I don't want to get it all the way from just my skin in the sun, because I don't want to get skin cancer. So I do it this way too. I put mushrooms in and let them get their skin cancer. They don't get skin cancer, but they make the vitamin D for me. I take the mushrooms, slice them up, put them in the sun for like a half hour, 45 minutes on each side, and they make vitamin D. So let me see if I can find that. Oh, there it is, right there. There we go. Oh, that's just my feet. Wait a second. That's just my feet. And there I am trying to find the. That's a frog right there. See that frog? That's a frog. Unfortunately, I got a smudge on my lens and I didn't notice it. But that was a little frog that's just under my deck there. Tree frog, looks like. But I do have a picture of that wasp here somewhere. You know what? It might be in a video. I think that might be what it is. Let me open up VLC here. All right, I think it might be in a video. That's what it is. Huh. I wish I would have kept that as a... Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to find this actually. Oh, here it is. Alright, we're pretty close here. Hang on. I think I found it. There it is. I found it. Amazing. Alright. Let me show you this video here. It's pretty cool. No, that's not it. Oh, OBS is messing me up here again. Why it does this, I don't understand why. I've got VLC running right now, and I'm supposed to be able to find it as a source, but it's not. It's not finding it. There we go. There. Okay, I got it. Good. All right. So here's that little wasp that I was telling you about. This is actually a video of him. Let me zoom in on him here. Video effects. Zoom in. All right. So there he is. There's that little wasp. And I'll just play this video. I don't know if it's gonna. See, there he's walking around. He's just looking. He's walking around, basically looking for spiders to get. And there was a big spider right there. There was I don't know if you can see him. There was a spider up on that little base thing there. Yeah, he's over there. He's over there looking for a spider over here. I saw a spider right here, either right before or right after this guy was in this area. One of those, not a wolf spider. Yeah, wolf spider out here. About the same size as this wasp, actually. A really big spider. And he was looking for him. So... I think it was on that thing, or it may have been right there that I saw the spider. Anyway, right around here, I saw a wolf spider, and this guy was after him. And I didn't realize it at the time that you know, that's what he was doing, because I didn't know what a spider wasp was. But it's kind of cool. So, there's a pretty cool article in Wikipedia about them that you can go read about if you want to get into details about them. But basically, they're very, very venomous, very toxic, sting, and this is their behaviors. They just kind of crawl through the grass and crawl, and basically just go where places where you can accidentally step on them. so you don't want them around when you're, if you don't walk around barefoot if you know that you got these guys around. All right, let me turn this on here. There we go. All right, so that was a little digression there. Let's see what else we got here. All right, here's another thing that I found. Hyperia. Is that what it is? Hypatia. Hypatia is a woman who lived in Alexandria in about 350 or so AD. And apparently this woman was a mathematician, and I didn't know. Maybe I'd heard this name before, but really didn't know anything about this. and came across it. And I don't know if this came from, maybe this came from the Nero article. I can't remember how I come across this article. But anyway, it's a woman who was a mathematician around this time. Oh, I know what it was. I found a movie about this. I can't remember the name of the movie, and it's not a very good movie anyway, so I won't even, I'm not going to tell you about it anyway. But it was about this woman, Hyperia. And it wasn't factually correct, and it was racially biased, and had all kinds of problems with this film. So, I won't recommend it. But she ended up when Alexandria got invaded at some point by somebody, some group or whatever. She got killed by them. But she did a lot of stuff, and it's just, a lot of time, especially in the 20th century, women kind of got erased from history. A lot of them, they weren't talked about, and because of prejudice, against women, and it's probably why, me as an older person going through school, they never talked about this woman. Never heard of her or anything, but I just found out about her, and she's pretty just a lot of amazing things, what was it? One of the main things that she did. Can't remember. There was some one particular thing that she did that was kind of a big deal in math. I forget what it was now. Well, but she did astronomy too, and she was into trying to figure out elliptical orbits of the planets, and all the stuff that men ended up getting credit for that she actually did, stuff like that. So, right, ellipses. Yeah, she was very much into ellipses and conical sections. If you how that works, right? You get a cone. If you do it, at right angles to the axis of the cone, and you get a circle. Do it at an angle, you get an ellipse. Do it all the way to the base, you get a parabola. And if you do it further away from the center of the base of the circle of the base, and you get a hyperbola. So she did a lot of this kind of stuff, geometry with cones and ellipses and stuff like that. And when she was doing that, she said, "Oh, hey, this will explain the orbits of the planets," And who was it? Was it Kepler or somebody else got credit for that? But she was actually the one who got into that a little bit. Anyway, so that's kind of interesting. So, Hypatia, that's one if you want to learn about somebody interesting. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, and then that led me to the Alexandria article, right? So, I don't know what I was looking at exactly or why I wanted to learn about Alexandria, but I know what it was. The Library of Alexandria. You've probably heard of that, right? The great Library of Alexandria that got destroyed and blah, 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 blah. Well, this movie about this Hypatia woman was kind of saying that the library got lost during her lifetime, and that's not true. It got lost way before she was around. So, just one of the factual errors in that film. But one of these old cities, in Africa. All right, what else we got here? Luke Cage. I never heard of this. I never heard of Lucas Cage. But apparently he's a superhero. like a Hulk or something. I don't know what it was, but when I got here, it was like he's got a, I just see a black guy in chain or with a chain. It just kind of bugged me. There's this, in mass media and culture and everything else, they try to associate black people and chains. And it's, there's a whole thing with slavery and all that, but that's, to just associate black people with chains I don't think is cool. I don't think that's a good thing to do. So, but they do that a lot, and I've seen that in movies. I see it all over. They have, the whole fashion thing of people wearing gold chains and all that. It's like, it's just, I don't like that. So, but anyway, I never heard of this character, and so I looked that up to find out what he was about, and really didn't read that much about it because I didn't like the image of the thing. Meteor we already talked about. Let's see. Large language model. I was going to try to learn more about multimodal language models and how they do that, and I didn't get time to do that. So at some point, maybe I'll do a stream on that. Maybe I'll learn more about that. I'm not sure. But I want to learn a little bit more about how that works. I know how the text part of it works. That's pretty straightforward, the way the text, way large language models work with text. But I'm not exactly sure how they use that same, the tokenization part of it for multimodal. I heard somebody the other day, a black guy, say that he didn't like the word token used in large language models, which I thought was an interesting take. I'm not sure if he was serious about that or if he was just trying to diss AI or. But there's a back in the 60s, 70s, there's this concept of token, of hiring a black person as a token, and that was the word they used, was token. And it goes on even today, right? The Republican Party does this all the time. Whenever they have a speaker, politicians up or whatever, they'll take black people and put them behind them, and they don't use the word token anymore, but they do that. They still do the same thing. But anyway, I just thought it was kind of interesting that somebody objected to that they're using the word token with AIs. I just thought that's kind of odd. It has nothing to do with that, of course. It's not. It's let's see. So anyway, at some point I'll read this. I don't know how this works now, but at some point I'll read this article and I'll just put some time into it and figure out how LLMs do multimodal, like images and videos and all that kind of stuff. How it's able to do that. I'll read about that and find it out. Let's see what we got here. Oh, this was really interesting. This is the United Nations Climate Change Conference in 25 last year. And somebody, just in passing, I can't remember where it was, but they mentioned that at the COP30 conference, this is the Climate Change Conference. Okay, it's a conference about climate change. But one of the things in the statement that they come out at the end, they didn't even mention fossil fuels. This whole thing. They didn't mention fossil fuels at all in the statement that they issued at the end of the conference, saying this is what we think or this is what we've decided or whatever. Didn't even mention fossil fuels, and it turned out that one out of every 5 or 1 out of every 10 or whatever people at this conference was a lobbyist from the fossil fuel industry. Can you believe that? Why would you even invite somebody or allow somebody from the fossil fuel industry to come to your climate change conference. How stupid is that? You know, that's ridiculous. If you want to do something for the climate, don't wait around for permission from a billionaire or a politician or whatever. You know, do it yourself. You know, get an electric car. I have a whole list of them, and I've done streams on this. You can look in my VODs. I've done streams on this, how to do climate change. You know, drive an electric car. You know, get a heat pump. There are a lot of things that you can do, right? Don't drive your car that much. Avoid driving. You know, instead of going to the store, you know, every other day, or calling up DoorDash, DoorDash, that's even worse, you know, or eating at restaurants or anything else. Just go to the grocery store once, you know, every 2 weeks or once a month. I go usually no more than once or twice a month, and I try to do it when I got other stuff. If I have to go somewhere else, I do them at the same time. So yeah, and walk when you can, and drive really slow. That's really important. If you drive a car, drive slow as you can get away with. The faster you drive your car, the more gas it takes. Hey Peekaboo, how are you? Welcome to chat. How are you doing? I'm doing well. I'm just going along here. I don't know how long I've been streaming. Let's see here. What does it say? A little over 2 hours. So yeah, just going along here. My stream is IRLs and just my browser stuff. And we're still doing I decided to do my browser stuff first, and then save the IRLs for last. So if you came for the IRLs, we're just about ready to do that. Drive it like you stole it. Yeah, drive it like you don't want to get pulled over. Yeah, drive slowly. And people don't understand that. They say, well, if you drive faster, you get there faster, so it all balances out. But no, it doesn't. The faster you drive, the more air pushes on the front of the car. If you ever drive your car, you're driving along, you stick your hand out. If you're doing 30 miles an hour and you put your hand out, it's not that hard. You know, you can put your hand outside. It's not that strong. But if you're doing 70 miles an hour and you put your hand outside, you almost rips your arm off. It's a much stronger force. And so to get pushed through that force, it uses more energy. So the faster you drive, the more energy it uses, especially at the higher speeds. You know, the difference between 30 and 40. You know, there's more. It takes more energy, but the difference between 60 and 70 is a lot, and 70 and 80 is a whole bunch. You know, it goes almost exponentially because of the way the equation for drag works out. So drive slow. Very. Here, double styrofoam. Hello. I'm curious how many people you managed to convert to veganism. I have no idea. I don't know. A good question. I don't know how many people I converted to veganism. But yeah, that's another thing you can do for the climate. Driving slowly, veganism. If you eat vegan and don't go to restaurants, just cook your own food and all that, and eat vegan. Because if you eat vegan, it takes less energy and less just generally damage to the environment, because you're eating the plants directly. Whereas if you're eating meat, they have to take those plants and feed them to an animal who eats a lot more plants, because they use energy as they're growing and all that. And then they kill the animal, and then you eat that, and it's just much more. It's a multiplying detrimental effect to the environment and energy and everything else, water use and the whole thing. So yeah, vegan is very good too. So there are a lot of stuff you could do for the environment. You don't have to wait for these jokers at COP30 to come and do. How come my thing isn't working here? There we go. These jokers here at these stupid, UN climate conferences. They're not going to get anything done. They're not going to do anything. We got to do it ourselves, And we can do it. We don't have to get permission from a politician to do these things. Let's see. Let me look at chat here. Got anything else? Hi, other double. Oh, double styrofoam cup. All right. Double styrofoam cup. All right. Let's see what else we got here on my browser. We're almost done with my browser history, and then we'll go to IRL, and I'll show you some of the cool IRL that I've got. This is. I don't like this word that they use here, agent harness. They call agent scaffolding, I think, is a better word. I don't like harness because it reminds me of like harnessing an animal or something. And also, I don't think when AI becomes conscious, we don't want to be using the word harness about it, But this is just there are actually two concepts of the word harness in software. One is for testing. They have a testing harness that kind of automates the testing of software. And then there's this other thing, the agent harness, which is basically just the LLM. With the way the LLM works is that you submit a prompt and it spits back out a bunch of text, right? That's how it works. With an agent, that prompting of the LLM is automated by this software, and they call it the scaffolding agent. And basically, it's just the software allows the prompting to happen automatically, and for the AI to make up its own prompts and prompt itself. And anyway, this whole software takes care of all that stuff. So that's another thing that I'd like to learn more about. I don't know that much about it. But yeah, AI. I talk about AI a lot. Okay, and then this is the last one, I think. Yeah, this is the last one we'll talk about tonight. Anglerfish. I saw something about. I don't know how I came across this one again, but these are just the most bizarre thing. You've probably heard of anglerfish. These fish that have this. Right, they got this thing in front of them, a lure that other fish come and see the lure, and then the fish eats them, right? That's how they work. But there was one here called what's it called? A ghost fish or something? Let's see if I can find it here. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's this one. Goosefish? No, that's not it. Monkfish. Yeah, is that it? Shit, now I can't remember which one it was. But they may have a picture of one here. It's one of these anglerfish that is translucent. Here it is. This one. That's just a drawing of it. But this thing is so frickin' amazing. Do we have it? Yeah, we got an article on this guy. Let's see here. All right, let me go to this article here, because this thing is just so bizarre and so amazing. Ghostly seadevil, they call it. Soft left vent. Okay, this is the first thing that's weird about the thing. Left vent. This is a silly thing. They call it left vents because its asshole is on the left side of the body of the fish. This is weird. So they call it left vent. The fish's butt, the fish's ass, the asshole, is on the left side of the body. And so it's called the left vent. So I thought that was really funny. Hi, Big Ducky Snow. Welcome. Big Ducky Snow says, hello, awesome, excellent people. And he says 2 doubles. Yeah, we got a double here on the stream. It's double the heck ass. Yeah, those make a cool lamp. Yeah, they make a cool lamp. Yeah, these little fish. And some of their little angler things. What do they call them? I forget. They have a specific name for them that I don't remember now. But their little lure. Some of them are bioluminescence, and they actually it's not the fish that does the bioluminescing. It's a bacteria that the fish encourages to grow on their little lure that are bioluminescent. These fish are like way down. They're over 2,000 meters below. They're way down where it's only 1% of the light reaches. It's basically pitch black down there. And so a lot of them use bioluminescence to attract their prey and stuff like that. Oh, we got a bunch of people here. Did I get raided or something? I got a lot of people here all of a sudden in chat. Let me go through chat here. I don't think I got a raid, did I? Let me look here and see if I got a raid. No, it was just people. All right, hang on just a second. I gotta look at chat here. Let me look at chat. We got some stuff going on here in chat. I gotta look at. All right. Let's make a cool lamp. Peekaboo. Okay. A hug war. We got a hug war going on, chat. That's what's going on. E-room lure. Yes, I was in E-room's stream trying to figure out how to spell lure. I spelled it L-E-W-E-R, and I thought, oh no, that's not right. It must be L-E-W-O-R. I was trying to figure out how to spell lure, and it turns out it's L-U-R-E. And I even went to Google and I said, Google, how do you spell lure? And I typed it L-E-W-E-R, and apparently there's another word out there somewhere that's spelled that way. And Google couldn't even figure out what I was trying to ask it. It's kind of frustrating sometimes having dyslexia. Big Ducky does another lure. E-room laughing. Everybody's laughing. Good. E-room. Peekaboo. Double styrofoam cup says, I always wondered why McDonald's calls its double quarter pounder instead of a half pounder. Yeah, I don't wonder about that at all. I don't even care about McDonald's. I care about it, but I don't. Let's see. I don't think about it. Let's see. Peekaboo Draws says, good question. Big Ducky Snow gives out another hug to Happy Nightmares. Was Happy Nightmares here? Did I miss Happy Nightmares in chat? Oh, there she is. Hi, Happy Nightmares. I'm sorry, I skipped over you. You're the same color as Peekaboo, and I just skipped right past you. Sorry. Hi. Big Ducky Snow gives a hug to Happy Nightmares. Let's see what else we got here. Big Ducky Snow gives me a hug. Thank you. Peekaboo Draw says, I've done that. Yep. Let's see. Happy Nightmare says, like skewer. Yeah, lure, like skewer. Yeah, it's the same sound. I just couldn't picture the actual spelling of the thing. L-U-R-E. Yeah. Everybody hugging everybody. Merci, merci. Happy Nightmare says, I have wondered the same. Wondering about McDonald's. Yeah, I try not to think about McDonald's too much. They're evil company. Happy Nightmare says, haha, no worries. I skip people in my stream often for the same reason. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard when they got the same color. It's hard to differentiate them and stuff, and or same spelling. That's especially for people with dyslexia. I tend to, because of my dyslexia, I don't read the whole word. I just kind of read the first part of the word and try to figure out what the word is based on context and everything else. So it's a lot of times I'll do that, confuse, multi-syllable words. I don't read the whole thing. I just read the first part of it to try to figure out what it is. So anyway, let's go back to this this weird fish here. This is the the ghostly sea devil, and so the first thing I notice is it's a left vent, so its asshole is on the left side of its body. So that's weird, right? And then its skin is translucent, so you can actually see. Here's a picture of it. That's not a very good picture, but I don't know how to zoom in on this. But it's translucent, so you can actually see its internal organs and part of its skeleton and everything inside the fish, because it's got a transparent skin on it, and apparently that makes it harder to see way deep down in the ocean, and its prey can't see it, and it's easier to catch. And that's part of these fish. They have slow metabolism, and they don't do a lot of swimming around. They're ambush predators, obviously, right? They just sit in one spot. A lot of them will be at the bottom of the sea. They have a specific name for that. I forget what they call that. But they use their fins as like feet almost, and walk around on the bottom of the ocean, and will just kind of sit there and wait with their lure. And then when the prey comes, they eat them. So they're not big energy expenders. They're more like a spider waiting for to catch something that way. And because they're that way, this is another thing that's just totally bizarre. Because they don't swim around a lot, they don't have as much opportunity to find mates. Right? They're swimming around. Fish that swim around a lot, they're going to bump into their, the opposite sex more often, and they find mates. These guys, because they're just ambush predators, and there aren't a lot of them, and they're just at the bottom of the ocean, they don't encounter their mates as often. They use pheromones to find each other, but even that, they don't get close enough even for the chemical pheromones to be able to find each other. So what they did is, through natural selection and all that, they became highly sexually dimorphic. So what's going on here is this big fish here is the female, and these little fish here are the male. That's how different they are in size. See that? And what happens is, when they do come across, when a male does come across a female, it says, "Oh, I'm not going to get another chance. I'm going to latch on to her," even though he's not ready to. They're not ready to mate or whatever. He says, "That's a female. I'm going to latch on," and they latch on to the female, and they'll get. Some of them have one, or some of them can have several of these males attached to them, just chomped onto them like parasites, which is just so bizarre. And what's even weirder about it, the way that these males get their sperm into the female, they don't have sex with the female. What happens is, let me see if I've got a picture of that here somewhere. No, I don't have that. What happens is the male, they latch on to the female, and eventually they secrete an enzyme that causes the skin of the female to dissolve a little bit, and the male's mouth actually melds with the female and becomes part of the female body. And then eventually the blood vessels actually merge together, and the male and the female start sharing their blood supply between each other. And over time, the male slowly, because it's just latched on here, and it's getting its nourishment and everything from the female, all its other body functions begin to atrophy and go away, and its brain actually goes away too, and its eyes and everything. And the male just basically, after a period of time, basically just becomes a sperm bag, like balls, like testicles for the woman, you know. And it's just attached to this thing, and it just becomes this, you know, blur. Let me see if I might even have some pictures of this. I thought I did. Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. Anglerfish. Oh, here we go. I found it. Here's a YouTube article. I don't know if this is. Okay, these are. No, this is just a search of it. I was going to try to find some pictures of them where they had dissolved. Here it is. This one has it. There we go. Let's see. This one has it.
It was a gift. I resented it for 3 weeks.
All right,
then I
never
filled
mind
it full
about
of water,
that.
dropped the grapes in, and I just
We don't
I
wanna
wasn't
watch
ready for that. I watched my daughter eat half a bowl of
Damn
grapes this
ads
morning
from
before I used
YouTube.
it. Just
All right, let me. I just want to find a picture of this. What it look. Okay, this is Creative Commons. I can do this. All right, cool. All right, we can play this whole video. It's only a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So I'll play this video. It's in Creative Commons, so we can do this. Monsters of the Deep, Anglerfish by National Oceanographic Center. Thank you, National Oceanographic Center, for putting your video in Creative Commons so we can play it on stream here. All right. So let me just play this video. Let me know if the video is sound is okay here.
Deep-sea anglerfish live at extreme ocean depths of up to 4,000 metres. They are usually inky black in colour and characterised by huge mouths, full of sharp, inwardly pointing teeth for efficient prey capture, and they have glowing organs for attracting prey or potential mates. This luminescence is produced by bacteria that live in the organs, although how it gets there is unknown. Anglerfish prey on various fishes and invertebrates. Some have been known to swallow prey larger than themselves, dangling their long lures as bait, hence the name. In some species, the males are very small in comparison with the females, and live as permanent parasites on their mates.
See that? See that? How they're melded together there. And they eventually just, everything else atrophies, and it just becomes this little sac here that's basically a sperm sac. And then when the female is ready to get fertilized, the sperm just travels through these blood vessels that have been developed here. And basically, it's like the male is part of the female then, and the female just uses the male as a sperm sac to fertilize it. It's just so amazing how that works.
The male attaches himself by biting onto the body of the female. His mouth fuses with her skin, and the bloodstreams of the two become connected. The male remains totally dependent on the female for nourishment. This is perhaps because locating each other is so difficult in the dark of the deep sea. Anglerfish are extremely varied in both size, habit, and morphology. A few can grow to around 1 metre in length, but most are much smaller, less than 20 centimetres long. The whipnose angler has been found to hang motionless in the water, upside down awaiting prey. Other species, such as melanocetus, are more active swimmers. We know very little about anglerfish in their natural habitat, as they are very rarely encountered. We have a number of different species of anglerfish, which have all been collected in the North Atlantic at depths between 500 and 4,000 metres. Here including Gigantactis, Melanocetus, Haplophrine, and Cryptopsaurus.
All right. So that was cool. So that was one of the things that I came across that I just thought was just so bizarre. You know, we're a sexually dimorphic species, right? We've got men are on average are a little bit bigger than women, but there are some species out there. Less spiders like that too. where the men or the male are much smaller than the female, especially the species that produce have this strategy where they produce, hundreds or thousands of young. The female would be bigger. Bees, right? Bees is another one. They've got their whole thing too, but the queen, right, is much larger than the other ones. And so I thought it was kind of interesting. All right, that's it. Let's go to my IRL now. Let's see what we get here in IRL. Let me show you my time lapse. You want to see the time lapse? This is very cool. I'll play my time lapse. All right, I put music to it too because I thought that would be cool. The way I do this is I've got this little camera here. I don't know what I do on the camera. This little camera here. It's a very old Hero GoPro camera. They have a setting on this thing that will take where you can tell it to take a picture every so many seconds. It doesn't actually make the video. All it does is make a whole bunch of pictures. So I set it up to take pictures. I think for this one told it to take a picture once every 10 seconds. So it takes a picture once every 10 seconds. And so I end up with like thousands of pictures. And then I use programming to take those thousands of pictures and put them into a video. And then I put music onto the video. So that's what I'll show you here. And it's really cool. And this one that I did is I took a picture of clouds. Because there were lots of interesting clouds that were happening on this particular day. And I said, oh, that would be a good thing to take pictures of. So that's what I did. All right. So here we go. We'll play this, and then you can just, whatever. It's fun to watch. It's about 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes long. All right, can you see that? I think it's all... Let me make sure I got this framed right before I run this thing. All right, that's pretty good, I think. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Wasn't that cool? Oh, my camera froze. Hang on just a second. That was pretty cool, wasn't it? So that was a time lapse that I did with my little GoPro. I just stuck it on a tripod and stuck it and pointed it out at there and told it to take a picture every 10 seconds. And then I stuck it into that video. I made it 15 frames per second so it would last longer, and it would be easier for me to play it on my computer equipment here because I don't have good computer equipment for doing that kind of stuff. And then I put that music on it. That music is called what's the name of that again? Let's see here. That music is called Sinking House, and it's by Unwritten Stories is the name of the group or whatever, the guy whoever person who put it up there, and that's in Creative Commons. That music. I basically picked that music because it's ambient and because it had the right amount of time to fit into the spot the length of the video. So that was kind of cool. It's weird, but I like that kind of stuff. And I did another one here. Let's see, I could probably get that this way here. Open file. Yeah, I had another time lapse that I had done. Let's see if I can find that here. Where is it? I probably got another directory somewhere or something. Oh, I know where I've got this. Hang on a second. Here we go. This is a video that I did, a time-lapse video. They were replacing a telephone pole, a power pole, right in my front yard. And they took the old pole, they put a new pole up, and anyway, I did a time lapse of that. I didn't get the whole thing because the camera ran out of space before they did the whole thing. But this is another one that I did, so I'll show you that. And I'll play that. I don't have any music on this one, I don't think. I think it's just. You see that? Yeah, there it is. So this is the pole. This is the pole that they're going to replace right here in the center, and this is the pole that they're going to put up there, the new one. There's the new one. Oh, there. Okay, there it is. Yeah, they already had the hole dug from days before. Sorry. Whoops. Whoa. So you see what they did? They transferred the power lines are two lines, right? For power, they get very high 17,000 volts over 25,000 volt power lines here, and he transferred one of them over to the top of this pole, and then he's got the other one which is running on the back side of the old pole. And so it's like, how are they going to do that? How do they get that back line over here onto this pole now, because this pole's in the way? And what they did is see, I missed that part because I ran out of space. and had to restart it. But you see, what they end up doing is they lopped off the top of this back pole. Can you see my pointer back there? Yeah, you can see that. The old pole, they lopped off the top of it and then lifted this line over that pole and stuck it onto the new pole. But I missed that part because I had to reload the camera. So, but you can see where it just kind of changes very quickly there. There. See how they did that? They lopped off this pole here and took that line and transferred it over to here. And then you can see the new line right here. I don't know if you can see that very closely, but here we can zoom in on it. There we go. You can see a little bit better there. See that? So first they transferred this top wire, and this other wire was on the back side of this one, which was much taller, and so they had to saw the top of this pole off and lift that line over and stick it on here. And then all the telephone and internet and all that stuff, they just left on the old pole. And the reason they were doing it in the first place was because this. Oh shit! What happened here? The reason they were changing the pole was because a car bumped into it. It's actually the second time that a car had bumped into that telephone pole in the last couple of years. For some reason, people like to fall asleep when they're coming along here or whatever, and they bump into this pole. The first car that hit this telephone pole also took out my mailbox here. They hit the telephone pole and took out my mailbox out in the front. And anyway, so they had to change out that pole. And so I did my time lapse of that. Let me see if there's anything else in the rest of this video here. Yeah, there's not much else, I guess. They're all gone. There it is. Oops. All right. Oh. There we go. So that was kind of cool. Let's see if I've got another one here that I can show. Oh, Erin says, did you get her name and info? Yeah, we knew who it was, each one. Because they couldn't drive anymore. Their car was messed up. You hit a telephone pole, with a car, you're not going anywhere, So, yeah, and I heard it. This one I didn't hear. I heard it, but I didn't realize it was a car. The other one I heard, and anyway, yeah, they knew who it was, and they knew it was their fault and all that kind of stuff. What the first one was, I can't remember what her deal was. Maybe cell phone use or something. I can't remember what it was, what her excuse was. And the second one was just, it was early morning. It's like 6 or 7 in the morning. She was coming home from a graveyard shift at a hospital or something. I don't know what it was, and she fell asleep. almost made it home, but she fell asleep and ended up hitting the pole, and she was really upset. That was all right. Let's see what else we got here. Cloud moon. Let's see what we get. Okay, cloud mix. Storm clouds moon. I may have shown this one before. Let's see what this one is. Yeah. Yeah, I think I've shown this one before, but that's okay. We'll show it again. I should put music to this one too. Oh shit! It didn't flip over, did it? Sorry about that. There we go. All right. Got it. Yeah, this was kind of neat because we got it. The clouds are moving in two different directions here, and we're mixing. Look at the way those clouds are going. They're going across, and then they're going. You see how it is at different altitudes, and they're just really mixing. It was quite amazing, and all that mixing and all that movement of the weather ended up causing rain. I think later on in this one. This is almost the same angle as that other one. That's the moon back there. That bright spot. That's the moon coming up. And because it's so low on the horizon, this must be like midsummer or something. I don't remember why I did this. Yeah, this is June. This is right at this summer solstice. And this is the inside. On the side here is reflection from the window. So I don't know. I don't think I got any more in it. Okay, that's enough of that. All right, so that was that one. Let's see if I got another one in here. Yeah, your room says her. Yeah, it was two women, but it just happened to be that way. It's not, you know. Utility pole. I think that's it. All right, the rest of them I think I've already shown for time lapse. Anyway, I thought that was really cool. All right, let's see if I've got some just IRL, some videos of stuff that I've made IRL around here. Oh, this is the redtail hawk that I was telling you about. This is amazing. Okay, so this video here. What I did is I took it with my GoPro at a high resolution, and then I trimmed it. I cropped it down, so I just took the center of the video. So it looks like it's zoomed in, but it's just a digital zoom type of thing that I did, post. 3 hours late. Sorry, mem loss. Oh, you didn't miss anything. Oh, yes, you did. But this is one of the good ones. This is a redtail hawk. I don't know if you're familiar with redtail hawks, but they're huge birds. They got a wingspan like 6-7 feet. They're huge birds, like as big as an eagle almost. Anyway, I saw this. I heard something happening over here by the goats or the sheep over here. Here's some sheep down here in the bottom. You can see those. Something happened, and they got upset. And I heard some sounds over here, and then I saw this red-tailed hawk fly from these bushes over here over to here. I think what happened is the red-tailed hawk tried to catch a bird over here, and didn't do it, but it just got everybody all upset when he tried to do that, and then he flew over here onto this pine tree over here. And so I grabbed my camera and I walked out there, and I walked all the way up to this fence here. See this fence down here at the bottom? And I got all the way up to this fence, and that red-tailed hawk was still there. And that's like 10 yards away. Very, very close to this red-tailed hawk. And I'll show you what he did. He just looked at me for a long time and didn't go. And then I started talking to him, and then he flew away. Yeah.
Redtail hawk. In the tree.
All right, it's a little bit bumpy because I got this zoomed in and I'm walking without a gimbal or anything, but
Yeah, that's a redtail hawk.
am I talking? I think I'm talking on that thing.
We're trying to get the sun.
So here he is right here. You can see that? He's just sitting there on this tree. I wish I had a camera that had a, you know, telephoto or something. I have a still camera with a telephoto, but I don't have a motion, you know, movie camera with a telephoto that works anymore. But he's just sitting there watching me. Here, I can zoom in a little bit more here actually with my thing here. There we go. So there he is. He's just sitting there. It's really rare to get this close to a red-tailed hawk.
How are you?
And I was close enough there. I was talking. He could hear me talking to him. I don't know what he thought, but he, you know, he probably never had anybody try to talk to him before. But I do that. I talk to the animals, and some of them like it, some of them don't, you know.
What are you up to?
So I moved in even closer here. It's kind of...
Hi, little sheep. Hi.
Oh, the sheep came
We're
up.
taking pictures over here.
This is the sheep.
Hi, little sheep. Hi. Yeah, we're taking pictures over here right now. Okay, hang on a second. We're taking pictures. I've never been this close to a red-tailed hawk before.
Okay, so now he's just about to take off. You see him right here? There he is. He's just about to take off, and I get a pretty good shot of him actually flying away.
There he goes. Look at that.
See that? Huge. It's a huge, huge bird. These red-tailed hawks are huge, and this is a big one too. This is even for red-tailed hawk, this is a huge bird. Like I said, about a 6-foot wingspan or so.
Look at him. Oh my God.
And so here he is there, flying away. And what he is doing here, you notice how he was flying in between the trees here? He wasn't doing that because he was trying to hide from me. He was doing that because he's trying to hide from these other birds out here. There's a tree back behind here that there were a bunch of birds were perched on. And he was sneaking up on them. He was sitting on the perch where I was looking at him. And he saw these blue jays out here that he wanted to get to. He wants to catch one of them. And so he flew in between the trees here and flew all the way out and perched inside, you know, the foliage of one of these trees here to see if he could get close to the blue jays. There he is, swooping in. Let's see, I think I actually walk up. I think I got a little bit more where I walk up there and see.
All right, little guy. All right. You get some ear scratches now. You were patient. You were patient. I'll give you some ear scratches. All right. All right, let's go see. I want to see if we can get some more pictures of that red-tailed hawk. Huh?
So he's up in here, inside one of these trees here, perched, but I couldn't even find him because he was doing a pretty good job of hiding. But behind all these trees here, these trees with leaves on them, is a dead tree that they like to perch on back there. And there were several blue jays back there.
I don't know where he went exactly.
I think he was in here somewhere, but he was hiding pretty good. I didn't get him a picture of him anymore. Unfortunately, I didn't get a picture of the blue jays out there, but
Yeah, he's deep in.
yeah. So that's. All right, did that work? Yeah, there we go. So that was a redtail hawk, and I actually saw a redtail hawk. Maybe even been that one. I don't know, but I saw a redtail hawk once catch a blue jay, just using the same method. You know, the blue jays were in the forest there, and the redtail hawk was just perched in there, being real quiet and waiting for them to get close enough where he could just swoop in and grab one of them. And he did it. He grabbed one. And there were it was a group of them. There was a group of maybe 20 or so of these blue jays. And when he did that, man, they just were going crazy. They were so upset that one of their buddies got grabbed by a red-tailed hawk, and they were just all making all kinds of noises, and it was pretty traumatic, you know. All right, let's see what else I got here for IRLs here. I'd like to figure out. I recorded some bird calls here. I'll play those here. You can just listen to them. Can you hear those? Yeah, these are birds that were calling a couple days ago in the morning. You can hear how many different calls there are out there. I can identify, maybe 5 or 6 of them. But I wanted to play this into the AI and see how many species the AI can identify from this. Isn't that interesting? I'm gonna bring up the bird identifier thing here on the AI. I think this is the one. Yeah, this is it. Okay, let me bring this up here. This is BirdNet, Cornell. They've got a. I think this is what they use for merlin. I think, or maybe merlin is another one. You may have heard of merlin as one of these apps. So let me bring this up here, and I'll load up this audio to this website. There we go. So let's play it and make sure it got uploaded there. Here. All right, that's the same thing. Yeah, that's it. All right. So I think I'll just use the default settings, and I'll tell it to analyze this audio to see how many of these birds that it can identify in this audio. Hopefully it works here. Oh, I think it got stuck. Shit, this happens sometimes. Especially if you got a audio that's more than a minute long, it'll do this. Yeah, I think it's broken. Here, let me reload the page here, and we'll do this again. Let me try changing a setting here. Maybe that'll help. Shit. No. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay. All right, we can't do that. All right, that doesn't seem to be working. But I could identify whether it was a chickadee, the blue jay, nuthatch. I think I heard a crow in there. Yeah, there were quite a few different birds in there, but there were some in there that I couldn't identify. I didn't know that, I wasn't familiar with their call, so I wanted to see if the AI could figure it out. All right, let me go and see if I got some more IRL here I can load up. I got a whole bunch of them here, actually. I don't know if I've shown these before. Oh, this is my garden. I did something different with my garden this year. Quite different, actually. I left it mostly wild and just let whatever could grow in there, hoping that I would get lots of pollinators and insects and critters and stuff to grow, to come into my garden. But I really didn't get that many, actually. But I did get quite a few flowers, and these are the summer flowers, the late summer flowers that came in. These here, which are kind of interesting. I tried to pull out a lot of the grasses as much as I could, but I let the other ones grow, the other plants grow. And sometimes they're just boring. They're just weeds, right? But look at this big thing here. This came from nothing. After the winter was done, there was nothing. This was just flat ground at the beginning after winter. And I just let stuff grow. And just in a couple months, this huge thing grew up here. This big bush here came from nothing and just grew, this big bush. And it made these seeds, a whole bunch of these seeds here. It didn't have really big flowers, but there's a little bug there. See that little bug there? I don't know what kind of bug that is. All right. So anyway, that was kind of interesting. Kind of, not very much, not very interesting. But let's see if I can find some more here. Let's see. Okay, these are just more. Yeah, it's just more of these flowers. I was trying to. I think I was trying to take pictures of little bugs that were on there. There's a little fly in this one here, but you can barely even see him really. It's one of those hover flies. Have you ever seen those before? Those are kind of interesting. Yeah, I guess this is. Yeah, nothing too interesting there. All right, let me see what else I got here.
Pair of donkeys.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Oh, here we got donkeys. Want to see some donkeys? I got donkeys here. Here's some donkeys.
Pair of donkeys. Hi. Hi, donkeys. Hi. Hi. Hi.
I smudged the lens a little bit there.
What's up? We got a little fly there. Get that fly. Get that fly. Hi. Hi, donkey. Hi. What's that? How about this donkey over here? Hi, donkey. Hi.
That's the mother of that one I was just petting.
How are you?
So it's the mother on the left and the baby on the right.
Get that fly out of there. We don't want those flies here. All right. Bye. 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 Bye.
All right, so that was donkeys. Let me fix my camera. Let's see if we can find another one here. Oh, here's that frog that I did earlier. That I showed a still of this guy. What was going on here is, God, what was I doing? Oh, I was trimming. Yeah, you can see some stuff here, some trim. I was using my trimmer to trim the grass around my deck here. And I was stepping backwards as I was trimming, and I almost stepped on this guy, this tree frog here. And again, I got that smudge on that camera, unfortunately, but you can see him sitting there. Okay, I guess that's it on that. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is a kind of a weird plant. This is like out at the end of my driveway. I saw these weird plants. Look at these plants. They got these big bulbs on them, and it's not like this is the end. It's like this is just kind of like the side of the stem of this plant. It's weird. And they had these weird flowers and everything. See, first they've got these bushy ends to them, and they're just weird plants. They're just bizarre. These little bulbs, and then this one had yellow on it, but this one has purple. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of a weird plant, so I took a picture of it. Oh, this is the forest nymph, or wood nymph, they call it. There, see if he's flying away there. You can barely see him. Let me try to zoom. I'll try to zoom in on him when we get close. He kept flying away. I kept spooking him, but all right. Let me see if I can zoom in on it a little bit here. I mean, I have a good picture of him, but I don't know where it is. Let's see here. I don't even know where it went now. Let's see here. There he is. See him? Let me try to get this centered a little bit. He's right here. This is one that I reduced the resolution on it so that it would play better on my computer. There he is. See him? There it is. See? They got these two dots on them. They're kind of a brownish color. And I've seen them a couple times out here. They're just a little, kind of a medium-sized butterfly. Nothing, they don't look special or anything, but they're actually pretty common. See that? Isn't that cool? Let me back it up here. See that? Just out in the wild. All right. I don't know why my camera tends to hang when I'm playing the video. It must have something to do with the load on the CPU or something that causes that to hang. Anyway, I showed earlier in the stream. I showed the wiki page for those guys. That wood nymph butterfly. Well, this one's kind of cool. Yeah, this is a good one. So I was just driving around in Lebanon, West Lebanon, and these two cars here, they were actually right next to me, and I didn't get the picture of them until they were way out ahead. This one here is a Studebaker, like a 54 Studebaker. And this one ahead of them is a 56 Chevy, I think. 56 or 57 Chevy. See that? It's a Studebaker. Studebaker and a 57 Chevy. Just driving out in the middle, you know. So I thought that was pretty amazing. I didn't get a good close picture of them. But you see that around here a lot. For some reason, people like to drive old cars. I see Model Ts, and I think it's these guys who just have these collector cars, and then in the summer, they can't drive them in the winter, right? They don't want to drive. You don't want to take a 70-year-old car or 80-year-old car and drive it in the winter, right, and rust it out and everything. So they wait until the summer, and they bring them out of their garage and drive them around. So I see there are quite a few of them out here, actually. Let's see what else we got here. This is there's a story behind this one, actually. It's not, some of these videos aren't very good, but they just kind of remind me of stories and things to tell. So if you've watched some of my earlier streams, I talked about the merlins that nested around here. Merlin is a bird it's a small hawk type of bird, falcon, I guess technically. It's about the same size and everything as a kestrel. And we never had them here in New Hampshire, but the last decade or so they started nesting in New Hampshire. And so I had a pair of these merlin nested just in my field out there. And they had at least 3 young that fledged. So there were 5 of them out here for a couple months. And I thought they had taken all of my little birds that I have come to my bird feeder. You know, my little songbirds and whatever that come to the bird feeder, smaller birds. I thought they had taken them all. And so after a while, so I didn't have it. I didn't have any songbirds for a long time, for a month or so, because these merlins were around. And this is like the last picture I got of one of the merlins. This was, let's see, I have a date on this one. This was October 31st. So like a day or two after this picture, the merlins took off. And apex predators do that. The hawks and foxes and a lot of these predators that go around that eat small animals will hunt out an area and then they'll move on somewhere else. And that's what this one was doing. Sorry, E-Room says car show somewhere. Yeah, it might be. We do have car shows, quite a few car shows, so that could be that they bring them out for car shows. Yeah, car shows are kind of cool. You go to a car show and you can see a whole bunch of old cars like that. It's kind of interesting. So these merlins, they took off just like and first part of August they took off, the whole family, and I don't know where they went. Probably south, I guess. I don't know where or north rather. Yeah, because they are more common in Canada. But they have been coming, with global climate change and all that kind of stuff, they've been coming more south. So, anyway. So this was like one of the last pictures I took of the merlins. And you can tell it's a merlin and not a kestrel by the way it flies. First of all, they're really fast. They're a very, very fast bird. That's how they catch their prey. They're not ambushed. They just flush out the prey and then just overpower it. Just fly much faster than it and catch it. But see how quickly it's flapping its wings like that. That's how you can tell that's a merlin instead of a kestrel. But that was one of the last pictures. He may have been leaving then. I don't know. No, he just flew over to that tree over there. That dead tree that I was telling you about earlier with the red-tailed hawk. So anyway, that just reminded me of that whole thing with the merlins and what happened was after the merlins left, like the next day or two, a lot of my little songbirds and bird feeder birds came back. So apparently at least the smart ones, they knew that the merlins were around, and so they went to somebody else's feeder somewhere. And as soon as the merlins left, somehow they knew that the merlins were gone, and they came back, to my feeder and everything. So that was kind of funny. So I thought they had all been eaten by the merlins. I thought the merlins caught them all. And I would, it'd be another year or whatever to come back. But they just came, like a day or two later, a whole bunch of them came back. So I had the goldfinch. Most of them, I think, are gone. So maybe it's just certain species that weren't adapted to stay away from them or whatever. But nuthatch and titmouse and several other species were still around here, and the blue jays, of course, they're pretty smart, so they they were able to avoid them for the most part. And plus, they're too big for the merlin. The blue jays are almost as big as the merlin, so that's kind of hard for them to catch them. So let's see if I got any more videos here. Okay, that's stupid. I don't need that. I took a picture of my fan. No, I don't need to explain it. I took a picture of my fan to try to figure out the RPM and do a bunch of technical stuff. Let's see here. Okay, those are some audio files. Okay, this, I think I've shown this one before. This is Jacob's Brook. And I've shown you pictures of this when it was full, and this is just another one where it was dry. Or mostly dry. There's just a little bit of water there in it. Very, very, very dry. This is after, you know, a couple weeks of no rain. It's a little bit deeper on that side. I think I can show it to you when it's full. Let's see if I have one of it when it's full. It's dry. No. I guess I'm not going to be able to find. I'm not going to be able to find the video of it full. All right. Okay, I don't think I have many more videos here. Oh, here's one. No, I won't show that one. Okay, I guess that's it. I don't need more IRL. Right, let me see if this. Oh, okay. The bird identification site finally figured it out. Okay. Remember, I loaded that audio file into the bird identification site here at Cornell, at the bird site. So here's what it was able to find. A Yosemite toad? Really? That's kind of cool. Let's hear what that is. Let's see. I want to hear that. Oh, you hear that sound? So I can hear a blue jay in the background, and then that little sound. It's not a Yosemite toad, I don't think, though. It's probably some other toad. I don't think it's a Yosemite toad. And then black-capped chickadee. So there were a lot more species than that. I could probably lower this confidence level and get even more here. Let's see, blue jay, yeah, black and white warbler. I don't know, maybe, I don't know. So okay, I thought it would be able to identify more than that. So all right. Let's see what else we got here. Browser history, time-lapse videos. Okay, I guess that's it. All right. So I can close that up. Erin says, damn near got Bill a bongs in that creek. Bill a bongs. Bill a bongs. I don't know what that means, Erin. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Damn near got Bill a bongs. Bill a bongs. I don't know. I don't know what that word even means. Here, let me look it up here. Bill a bongs. I'll do a Google search of it and see what it is. This is going to get me in trouble doing a Google search. A billabong is an oxbow lake or stagnant pool branching off a river in Australia. Okay, formed when a watercourse changes course and leaves a dead end behind. Oh, okay. Okay, an oxbow lake. Okay, I know what an oxbow is. Okay, I see what's going on there. Surf brand. No, that's not what it is. Okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah, rivers and stuff like that, and water flowing, it can do some really cool stuff. Form some lots of weird, unusual, dried up creek, etc., with pools of water left in it. Yeah, it almost was. There was a little bit flowing. You could see a little bit flowing through it, but it was almost just pools of water, and they're almost dried up. I imagine it does get that way sometimes. I don't remember seeing it that way, but it probably does get to where it isn't even flowing at all. There's certain sections, I'm sure. All right. What was I gonna do here? All right, I guess that's it. Let me look on this thing here. This is my description. All right, so this is the description here. So what do? We basically just did this. I went through my browser history first, which I don't even remember now all the stuff that I went through. Then we looked at some time-lapse videos and some IRLs, and that's about it. Okay, we didn't do Fermi paradox. We don't need that. I didn't do that. We didn't do that, so I don't need that. These are my socials. Different sites, websites. KXQE double triple here. Doubletribble.com is my website, which I think is still working. Let me bring it up here and see if it's still working. I was having trouble with it earlier. Yeah, it's not working right now. So, all right. What else we got here? I think those are the different tags that I put in here. I think I put science in here as a tag too. I think I had some science going on today. So doubletribble.com. Sorry, it's not working right now. Double Tribble on Twitch. Doubletribble.yt on YouTube. Mastodon.social. I don't have anything there. Let's see. Oh, I know what I was going to show. I was going to show some of the... Did you know they had a walk today? A space walk? Did you guys know that? NASA, they went out in space and did a space walk. Let's see if I got that here. Yeah, here we go. that's not the one.
Good work. So
Here
the
we
next
go.
steps are going to
Yeah, let me
be
see
to
if I can
get in
get that up
position
here.
for the handoff of the failed. So Sophie, you're going to get the crew lock bag number 4 down toward the ORU bag. And Neil, you'll be ready to talk to Jessica and Jack and to get a go for the GCA to the published Z1 tie down removal assist position.
Bill copies.
Sir Sophie, when you...
All right, go ahead and use Mike.
Oh, you know. All right, so anyway, they did a spacewalk today. I've got in the background there. I've got when Big Ducky Snow was streaming at the same time, and I was watching this NASA channel, and also Big Ducky Snow on another tab, and his audio bled through on the thing, so that's kind of funny. So anyway, they did a spacewalk, so that was kind of cool. Jeez, let's see if I can get this to. All right, it's gonna take me a second here to get my camera back on because I made a mistake. There we go. So yeah, they did a spacewalk, so that was kind of cool. And they're on Twitch here. You guys know that NASA channel? They're on Twitch. They got a channel on Twitch. They had like almost 25,000 people watching them doing this thing. It's basically them floating around in space and saying, "Okay, I've got a wrench. Okay, I'm gonna turn the bolt now." And it's kind of funny watching them. They do that. They just doing the most mundane stuff, but making a big deal out of it and making say, "Okay, here we go. I'm going to turn the bolt now. Ready? 3, 2, 1, turn the bolt." It's like every little thing is just orchestrated out, and it's just kind of funny the way they do that. All right, let's see. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that they did a spacewalk, and I told them every time they do a thing, every time they do NASA does a live thing like that, I always try to type in to the thing. I tell them to not. They want to crash this SSI into the space station, into the Earth. In a couple years here now, 5 years or 3 years or whatever, they're going to retire the space station, and they're going to intentionally push the space station into Earth, so that most of it burns up in the atmosphere, and the rest of it splashes into the ocean. The whole space station that they spent all these decades putting together and everything, they're just going to crash it into the Earth. And so every time I see them stream, I go in there and tell them, I say, "Hey, don't crash the space station. Just push it up a little bit so that, into a safe orbit somewhere, or into a solar orbit or whatever, so that we can preserve it for history, So we got that as a museum in space or whatever, I don't understand why they're going to crash the thing into the Earth when they, it just seems like a waste to me, I don't know. All right, let's go back to my my thing here. Document. All right. So anyway, that was the last NASA Live. I did that, right? So that's the thing. And there was another one that I did in there that I showed you, the Creative Commons, right? I showed you that. We did one, and I showed you the Creative Commons on that one, so we don't have to do that. And I have some new music that I played. I got my intro music, you know about that, right? Not that one. Where is it? This one. Here's the new one. Sinking House. That's that music that went along with that time lapse of those clouds that I did. So that's new music that I did. Yeah, all along is the music I play at the beginning of the thing. So that's the thing for that. Okay, I guess that's it. Okay, I guess that's it. How many, do I have any viewers left? Oh, I got 7 viewers. I guess we should try to raid somebody. We might get 3 or 4 of us over there. Let's see who we've got now out there. Okay, let's rate Happy Nightmare. She's got 4 viewers, so she could use some more viewers. Although although they might be the same viewers that were watching me right now, so I don't know how that's gonna work. Oh, shout outs. Let's do shout outs here. Do shout out to E-Room. I don't know if I gotta put the. I think I gotta put the. That sign in front of it. Did that work? Yep. So everybody, please. I'm lurking happy. Yeah, that's what I'm figuring. It's probably you and Mem and everybody is probably all over there already. So we're gonna rate each other here. It's kind of funny. Shout out to Memloss. Let me do a shout out to Memloss. Does a GTA. Occasionally does a. Yeah, occasionally does a arrow. Let's see who else we got here. We had a Happy Nightmare. We're going to raid in just a second. So I guess we don't need to. I don't need to shout her out. We're all going to end up over there in just a second. But Peekaboo was here. Peekaboo draws. As Chan says, it's in her name. Peekaboo draws. She draws with just her hands. Okay, who else was in here? We had some new people in here. I don't know if you folks are still around here. If you guys stream, go ahead and say something in chat before we raid out and promote. I don't care if people promote themselves. It's yeah, I don't mind people promoting themselves. If you want to go ahead and promote yourself, that's fine with me. Oh, Big Ducky Snow. All right, we got to do Big Ducky Snow. Big Ducky Snow does Gear Club. That's his thing recently. That's what he's been doing a lot of, is Gear Club. He had a stream today, a big long stream, and I lurked most of his stream today. So everybody give him a follow if you're not already following him. Alright, I guess that's it. So now we can raid out. Let's see, let me try this here. I think it's just /raid. I think raid. Let's see if that works. Yep, it worked. Okay, so we got a raid going here. Alright, everybody, take care. We'll see you on the other side there. I'm going to play my closing thing here. There we go. And at some point, this is going to raid out. And there are those squirrels running forever in circles. Did we raid out? I don't know if the raid worked. Raid has been created. I guess it's still thinking about going. All right, I'm just gonna hit raid now. Okay, everybody, we'll see you in a bit. There we go.